I call this meeting of the Montgomery County School Board to order at 7 p.m. on January 9th, 2018. Because this is an organizational meeting of the board, I will preside temporarily until the board chair is elected. I would like to start the meeting by first welcoming our new board member, Ms. Dana Parton. So thank you so much for being here, Dana.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Meyer.
Now I ask that everyone stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Our student school board reps will now read our mission, vision, and core value statement.
We would like to welcome all of our guests to our school board meeting tonight. Here at Montgomery County Schools, our mission is that every student will graduate career and college ready and become a productive, responsible citizen. Our vision is to inspire learning by providing a nurturing environment, positive relationships, high expectations, and continuous growth.
Here in Montgomery County Schools, our values for everyone include physical safety and emotional well-being, mutual trust and respect, open communication, accountability, engagement, and lifelong learning and cultural diversity. Thank you for being here tonight.
Okay, thank you. Our next item is the adoption of the agenda. Everyone received the agenda via board docs. May I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? We have an agenda. All right. Next, my announcements. First, hopefully everyone had a great holiday season, and Happy New Year to everyone. It's good to see all of you here. Prior to the break, a lot of great things were happening in our school division. All of our schools had different programs, and I attended so many that I'm not going to mention all of them this evening, but just absolutely wonderful productions that our students had prior to the break. I will say this: the highlight was attending the Montgomery County Education Foundation grant awards banquet, where the foundation donated over $40,000 in grants to our teachers, and I'd like to thank Ms. Froggett for that, who's the president of the MCEF, and that's just absolutely amazing. So that's a huge. Okay. Well, teachers came back last Thursday, and we thought students were coming back on Monday, and we thought again until about 7 a.m. this morning they were coming back today. And Ms. Mumau and I, we've had a lot of conversations the past 2 days, and it was a real tricky morning, but I feel that we made the right call. It was pretty icy out there this morning, but we're real excited, hopefully, to have our kids back tomorrow, and hopefully on time. Is that the prediction right now? Okay, all right. So very excited to see the kids, and even in my own household, I never thought I would hear groans and moans when I said that we were closed. They were actually, I had one that was actually disappointed, and it was sad that we're not going back to school. And so they're definitely ready to go to school. So, all right, next, our next order of business is the election of the board chair. Anyone on the board may nominate another board member for the chair. A nomination does not require a second. Once nominations are complete, I will ask for a motion to close nominations. This motion must be seconded and voted on by the board. We will then vote on each nominee in the order of their nomination. Do I have a nomination for chair of the Montgomery County School Board?
I'd like to nominate Ms. Karan as chair for Montgomery County School Board. I feel that Ms. Karan serves as a great representative of MCPS School and certainly the school board. She attends many events throughout the district, not just the ones in her district, or the ones her children attended. She tries her best to attend as many as she can across the county. MCPS children are truly her passion, and she exemplifies what public education is about, what is best for children. I appreciate that she keeps the board informed and organized and seeks feedback on important issues.
Okay. All right. We have a nomination for Ms. Cron as board chair. Are there any other nominations? May I make a motion to close the nominations?
Second.
I have a motion to close, and I have a second. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it, and congratulations, Ms. Karan is elected as the chair of the Montgomery County School Board for the 2018.
We got to back it up, Dr.
Did I
Meyer.
fix it up?
So that closed nominations.
Okay.
I have to vote for
Yes.
them.
Now you would vote on Ms. Karan as the chair of the Montgomery County School Board.
All right.
One more vote.
We need to vote again for that. Okay, we will now vote on the nominee. Our first nominee was Ms. Karan. All those in favor of Ms. Karan for chair of the board, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Am I okay now?
There you go.
All right. So now,
No, it's my
congratulations.
turn.
All right.
Well, thank you so much. It's indeed my honor to chair the Montgomery County Public Schools one more time this year. I'm very excited, and thank you for all your trust, and thank you for the wonderful nomination, kind words, Ms. Graham. And I always keep in mind that we are here for all the students in Montgomery County. I said that when I got elected, well, 5 years ago, and I still keep that as my pledge to the board and to the citizens of the county, that students are first. I would also like to take this opportunity. I'll again welcome Ms. Parkin, and we are happy to have you on board. And also like to say Happy New Year to everybody, and a wonderful second semester for the school starting tomorrow morning, hopefully. Fingers crossed. Next item will be, we are continuing with our reorganization of the board, and we must elect the vice chair. As with the election of the board chair, anyone on the board may nominate another board member. A nomination does not require a second. Once nominations are complete, I will ask for a motion to close the nomination. This motion must be seconded and voted on by the board. We will then vote on each nominee in order of their nomination. May I have a nomination for the vice chair of the board?
I'll nominate Ms. Connie Froggatt. I think Ms. Froggatt's done a great job, has just tireless in her efforts, and has done a good job communicating, and the MCEF work as exemplified at the end of last year. Her work on that has been great, so I think you guys have been working as a good team, so.
Thank you.
A second.
Are there any other nominations? Then may I have a motion to close the nominations?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
We will now vote on the nominees, and our first nominee and only nominee is Ms. Connie Froggatt. All those in favor for Ms. Froggatt for vice chair of the board, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
We elected our chair, only vice chair. The ayes have it, so Ms. Froggatt, congratulations.
Thank
Our vice chair for the school board for 2007, well, 2018. I should get used to that. Next item is appointment of our clerk. May I have a motion to appoint Ms. Brenda Drake as the clerk of the board?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ms. Clark is our board clerk. Now we appoint Ms. Clark as Montgomery County School Board for 2018.
Can I take a second and say
Sure.
something? I just want to say what a fabulous job I think you do.
Right.
And even though sometimes I bring ideas up and things like that, it is no reflection on the work that you do, because we could not have anyone that would do an outstanding of a job as you do. So I appreciate everything you do.
Yeah.
I'll
That's
second
true.
that.
I will.
And,
Yeah.
and your new announcements for closed days or hours late.
So much fun.
I just love it. It's just so inspiring and uplifting and cheerful, and that's the message we want to convey.
Yes, I totally agree. It's a pleasure to get up and actually listen to those,
I know.
even if you
Dog
don't have a
takes
child
care
in
of all
school.
that, so I don't listen to none of that. It has nothing to do with that.
I would also add to that that Ms. Drake has been extremely supportive of the Educational Foundation, which is not in her job description and not something she has to do, but she does for us, and we really appreciate everything she does there, too.
And Brenda, I just want to publicly thank you for all of your help, your information, and your most heartfelt welcome to me to the board. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Clark. Next item is appointing our deputy clerk for Montgomery County School Board. May I have a motion to appoint Ms. Becky Shanks and Dr. Mark Meyer as deputy clerks of the Montgomery County School Board?
So moved.
Second?
Any discussions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Becky Shanks and Dr. Mark Meyer are appointed as deputy clerks of the board for 2018. Now we have an adoption to affirm our officers of the county school board. I need a motion to adopt a resolution affirming our officers as Guinan Crown as a chair, Ms. Connie Fraggett for vice chair, Ms. Brenda Thorpe as our board clerk, Brenda Drake as our board clerk, and Ms. Becky Shanks and Dr. Meyer as deputy clerks.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Adoption is affirmed. The next item is our board committee assignments. Historically, the board chair has made the appointments or sought volunteers for other committees and boards. This year, committee appointments include 2 members for the liaisons to the Board of Supervisors, and 1 VSBA delegate, 1 VSBA alternate, and 1 member for the Southwest Virginia Governor's School, and up to 2 members for the liaisons for the Education Foundation. As I talked to the board members, the last year's appointments were, you will see it on the board doc that usually vice chair and the chair will be the supervisor liaisons, so we'll be happy to continue with that. And I know Ms. Graham agreed to, unless anybody else would like to take on, agreed to be a delegate for VSBA, and Ms. Bond agreed to be alternate. And as much as his job permits, I think Mr. Chabaka agreed to continue with the governor's school. And Ms. Fraggett is the perfect person to continue with the foundation. When I was talking with some of the board members, we also, we can always add up another member if the members are interested as year progresses to join to Education Foundation with Ms. Fraggett. And also, I know that governor's school requires only 1 board member representing for each school districts. But within ourselves, if we want to take turns, the meetings that you cannot go,
Maybe we can have an alternate.
Ms. Bond showed interest like that we can take 1, and for 4 meetings we can take, I don't know
Sure.
if that will be
Yeah,
something
I'm
you
going to
would like.
inquire. I'm going to inquire with the
Sure,
director of that
how they
school
feel about it.
about having an alternate or not.
Or at least 1 alternate, not maybe all different board members.
Yeah, I'm very happy to do to be a representative for the governor's school, and I would encourage anyone else on the board who ever would like to do that to please take a turn. We collectively have a seat at that board, and so I think it would it's definitely beneficial. I think for us to somewhat take turns, but having said that, it is challenging. I know for those of us
It's
that work
the middle
during
of the day,
yeah,
and of
so,
course a drive to Pulaski as well.
yeah. So anyway, I'm happy to do it as much time as you know, the chair and the vice chair spend in other meetings and whatnot. I think it's a small sacrifice that I can.
But it might be good to have an alternate, so if you can't make the meeting, you
Correct.
could coordinate with the alternate.
Yep,
Yeah.
I'm planning to look into that at
Yeah.
the next
Okay.
Well,
meeting.
in my opinion, if the governor's school didn't mind, which most organizations are usually happy to have the most they can,
Mhm.
to me, I think it's a good opportunity for everybody to see actually what's happening, because
Sure.
it's hard to base an opinion or a decision on something you don't know what's actually happening or haven't had face-to-face conversations. So that's kind of why I suggested that if we
Yeah.
had, you know, 3 or 4 people, one each meeting, then it's not hard on you, it's not hard on me that work, it's not
Sure.
hard on anyone that holds a, you know, a day job that can't get away from.
Yeah,
You know, Mike can do it, like I said, every now and then, but
yeah,
to do something all the time, but I'm willing to take my turn.
sure.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good point.
that's a
And Ms. Froggatt, when is the MCP
Ours,
meeting?
our meetings are the third Thursday of the month here at the school board office at 9 a.m., and they are open public meetings, so you're welcome to come. You know, you don't have to be the one of the appointed members to come. Those are open public meetings, but obviously we would welcome a second board member as well if anyone is
So
interested.
third Thursday at 9 a.m.
Third
here
Thursday
at
at 9
the
a.m.
school
here
board
at the
office.
school board office. Yep, just check with Janet to see which room we're in, because we do move around sometimes depending on availability. And if that were to change, I'll let you know.
Okay.
That's so far what has worked best with Dr. Meyer's schedule and the staff schedule.
And I'll have access to my my calendar, so it's on my calendar if you ever need to go take a look. So
Do I need a motion to approve those, or we just, yes, all right. May I have a motion to approve those committee appointments as they are, and we can always add as we go along throughout the year, additional members.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We approve our appointments.
Okay, so we took off several committees that used to be appointments. Now, the insurance, and I would still like the first option to be able to sit in on that committee meeting.
We still would like to find out, you know, when those meetings are, so our board members will be able to follow up and attend, and we'll be careful not to be more than 2 of us in each, if you're interested in, and make sure Ms. Franklin will be the insurance committee. And I think we also have the minutes of them shared. You know, I remember we had the calendar committee minutes shared, and that will keep us informed to what are the committees we have.
Well, and the same with, I know you and I had spoke, I've been on the Career Technical Education Board as well, and to me, that's something that is, I'm not saying anything's less or more important, but because we deal with career and technical education, and that's part of the big incentive right now for our division, you know, I kind of feel like that would be something kind of neat to have, more so, I don't mean a presentation or something like that, but, you know, some of us that don't have as strong of roles on appointments, those type of things I think are important as well, that if we could maybe, you know, if I could bring back to you guys what's happening there. Like I know I did the County Planning Commission, which wasn't a whole lot that really dealt with what we were doing, but I do feel like career and technical education is, and
really.
some of the things that, you know, Rick Weaver has taken us to, and we've met with some of the businesses around and a lot of the corporations. It's really interesting, some of the things that they say that they're looking for in students, and it's also very interesting on the things that are happening with hirings and things like that I think generally the public probably doesn't realize. So, you
When
know,
do those usually meet?
just different times when he sets them up. Like tomorrow night, actually, we have a meeting at the high school at 5:30 when the
With the curriculum
yeah,
night.
curriculum and something else is meeting as well. But we've got that meeting to do.
What time is that? Could I come to that?
5:30. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, usually he just has different people that help serve from different parts of the community, and he has business owners and things like that. So I'm not really the board rep. I'm more of Old Town Barber and Hair Salon rep.
Right,
You know,
right,
but I think he's more than welcome for people to hear. Usually have someone from New River, somebody from Volvo,
Oh,
you know,
great.
plumbing, and it really, it's really neat. So, but I just think that's, you know, that's not on our list of
Right.
appointments, but I just think that's a strong one that we need to hear from, so.
I agree.
Definitely, I will be interested in,
Yeah.
you know, attending.
And we can send that out too, to you all when that committee meets, because you make great points there. So that's something else that Mr. Pauly and Mr. Weaver can make sure they get those dates to you of those meetings when they're planned.
I just think, you know, jumping off of what Ms. Bond said, is that, you know, especially if some of us are attending the curriculum nights, it's really nice to be able to give even more information to students we're talking to or parents beyond what some of us already know. So I think it's a great learning place to get that information. Thank you.
Any other questions, discussion? The next one, adoption of resolution appointing agent and deputy agent for signing claims. I need a motion to adopt a resolution authorizing the superintendent and in his absence, the assistant superintendent of operation to serve as agent and deputy agent for signing claims.
So moved. Oh,
Second.
sorry.
I have a motion and second. Any discussions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We adopt that resolution. The next item is appointing the designee for our superintendent. May I have a motion to appoint the deputy superintendent as the primary superintendent designee, and in their absence, the assistant superintendent for operation as the secondary superintendent designee?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and second. Any discussions regarding that? Not, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We appoint our designees. The next one, you will see our scheduled meetings, times, and locations. Our next item is the approved those for the calendar year. The meeting calendar provided in board docs includes our regular first and third meetings and our budget special sessions and our joint meetings with Board of Supervisors. May I have a motion to approve our 2018 meeting calendar as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussions regarding the calendar?
I had one item, not to sound like a broken record, but looking at the calendar, the 20th, our second meeting of November, falls on the last day before Thanksgiving break. And I believe that that's a half day to this coming calendar year. So the one change I would like to see is either the elimination or either eliminate or move that. I wouldn't say eliminate, I would say maybe move that meeting. And the week before is, I believe, is when VSBA, and that's typically a public meeting for us. I don't know if that can, that's a work session meeting anyway, so I don't know if we could do our work session remotely. We could perhaps move to the 27th if people would prefer to do that. But I think, this year, I think we had several, I won't be able to make that meeting. This year we had several board members who were not able to make it. And, given the calendar for the staff too, I would like for them to also be able to start their travels or Thanksgiving break whenever they're out that day. So that's my suggestion.
Any other
on that.
thoughts on it? Any
I would
questions?
actually support that too, because I do recall we barely had a quorum this year at that particular meeting. And there have been cases in the past when that, it depends on how the days fall, that was VSBA week.
Yeah.
And we didn't have it. And, we always have the option, should we need it for some reason, unexpected, to add it back. But I would agree that, in particular for our staff, our kids are already going home early that day. A lot of our parents, some of which sit on this board, I'm not one of them, but I understand for you guys, you want to start your vacations, and particularly our staff, you know, they have to be here that night. And I think just it doesn't appear to be a necessary meeting at this point. So
I would agree. You know, I view it just like we just did this meeting when we moved it because staff wasn't supposed to be back yet because school wasn't started yet. So I really want to be respectful of you know, all the staff that is here every single board meeting to support us. And I think it's very important that we are respectful both ways.
So are we asking to eliminate the
Is there
meeting?
any concerns from, you know, your perspective? I mean, in the past, we had some years that we had a meeting and then we left either at the evening or the next early morning to drive to VSBA. So if it is really, really required to have another meeting in that month, we probably can do it on the 13th instead of 20th.
Or the 27th.
Or we will
Or the
just-
27th.
Or the 27th, yeah.
For me, I would rather do it the 20th than the 13th because usually we're leaving that
Yeah,
Tuesday.
I mean, that
for
always a
Williamsburg. That's
stress,
just-
it's
yeah,
a stress.
that's
It's really
not-
late for us
Yeah.
to be driving
so
that
I'd
far.
rather have the handful here on the 20th if we've got to get that in there,
Yeah.
my viewpoint. But 27th is fine with me. I don't have any plans on going there.
Do we need
I'm
an
fine with
amendment to
any
the
of
motion?
We also, you know, because we eliminate the second meeting in December too, I mean, we could spread those out. We could, you know, if there's certain business that has to be done, I know there's times
Yeah, that's.
where it's just,
will
we
be
had to
my
just
role.
vote on something procedural or something like that. That's the type of thing I'm saying. We could do that during VS, we'll probably have a
Well,
quorum
that's
at
the question.
VSBA.
Could we do that during VSBA
Yeah.
if there was some necessary item we need to be done or not? I don't know.
If I'm not able to attend VSBA,
Yeah,
and then we're voting on things at VSBA, I would have a problem with that.
yeah. I mean, if we are all
Well-
there, it's a one thing,
Yeah.
but like you said.
Right. I mean,
It'd be like voting
hopefully
on
I can
paying the
assure you
bills or
that
something
there's
like
nothing,
that.
yeah, like paying the bills or something that's procedural that needs to be done, not something of,
Could we
I don't
not
have a
I don't
problem
know.
with that.
keep that meeting on the agenda and have it as a light, not a heavy? We've done that at times before and not scheduled a lot of things on it because, I mean, I kind of feel the same way about the July meeting. We didn't used to meet in July at all. And then the last couple of years we've started, but in the summertime, I don't travel that much, but, you know, a lot of others of us do and are missing 2 or 3. So it's the same kind of deal in July, that one meeting. You know, if I can't be here, if there's 4 of you that can, then I can kind of remote in. Same thing with November, who can't be here, and even in our, you know, or make it a short one.
So how about moving the meeting up and make it a short one?
That's
Let me
also,
move it
that's
up.
also
Move the
another
time.
idea.
Oh.
Start it like at 4 or 5, and make it a short meeting.
Again, I just, you know, I feel like that's not fair to the staff since
I
they
agree.
get a half a day and,
Pull them back in. I mean, I think if we want to move, I'm happy to eliminate that meeting and then reschedule it back if we need it. If we would rather just pick a date now, my preference would be the 27th. I don't see why. That's a natural.
Can I recommend Monday, the 19th?
Say again?
Monday, the 19th? Is that,
Can we have the boardroom? Well, we don't need it then, though, do we?
It's
That's
a work
session.
session.
That's a
That's
work
right.
session.
So we don't have to worry about that. Because that is, I think there is a board of supervisors meeting that night, possibly.
might be
Although
another
there's
option to,
second.
would you like to wait till we get close to that date and see what issues we have?
We can keep
At
it
that
on the
point.
calendar and then, like Ms. Bond suggested, and then we'll see if it is needed or not, and then we decide that then and there.
I think if we do that, can we have it as a contingent meeting or so? I think if we keep it on the calendar, it's just going to be a meeting that day.
Why?
I mean, if
We've
there's
done
no
that
need, we
before
can
and take it off.
cancel,
You can
or
always
there's no
cancel.
quorum, we can cancel later on,
Yeah,
all right?
yeah.
I'll go with, you know,
That's what we
whatever
did with the last
witness-
meeting we had.
Okay, let's decide something. I'm gonna say let's keep it on there, and we'll talk about it later.
Sounds like it sounds like.
And I'm
a
sure our
plan.
staff will remember that it's it's an early holiday, and
Yeah.
we'll
I mean,
we'll
definitely
we'll
not
talk
the
I guess talk
advantages,
about it
yeah, not
starting
to
in
have it
October.
there.
Yeah, I understand.
Any more discussion regarding that? Then we are moving on. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Three of us.
Three.
Thank you.
Are we good?
Motion carries.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
I apologize.
That's all right. I wasn't counting, so. May I have a motion to adopt the hiring practices resolution approved by the board in 1992 and adopted annually since that time?
So moved.
Second?
Yes, sir.
What you did.
I did. I have a motion and a second. Is there any questions regarding that resolution? Looks like it's been around. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We have our resolution for hiring practices. The next one is the adoption of board procedures, code of ethics, and standards of conduct. And you see them as attachment, school board's procedures and standards of conduct and code of ethics. Annually, the school board revisits the board procedures, standards of conduct, and code of ethics noted in policy 1-1.6. May I have a motion to reaffirm this policy?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and second. Any discussions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We adopt our procedures. The next one, reaffirmation of school board protocols, which the school board initially affirmed these protocols in 1998. And before we take action on these protocols, I would like to read them aloud. 1. Relationship with each other. Members of the school board are reminded of the protocols outlined in the board procedures, code of ethics, and standards of conduct approved by the board at its reorganization meeting in January. Board members are encouraged to share information from constituents from outside their voting districts with the corresponding board member where appropriate. 2. Relationship with district employees. Members of the school board should seek information through the superintendent or deputy superintendent. Board members are reminded that individually they have no authority to direct staff, but that all authority is vested in the board as a whole. Board members are encouraged, however, to expand their knowledge of successes and challenges within all district buildings through visitation and other means. 3. Relationship with the Board of Supervisors. Members of the school board are encouraged to continue to provide a heightened awareness of activities in and information about the school system and individual schools to the Board of Supervisors. School board members are also encouraged to receive information from the Board of Supervisors in like manner. 4. Relationship with members of the community. Members of the school board are encouraged to receive information from community members and to seek out information, but avoid expressing a final decision until they are at the board table in open meetings. Board members are encouraged initially to direct members of the community with specific concerns to appropriate staff. May I have a motion to reaffirm these protocols?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We have our protocols. The next is reaffirming our mission, vision, and core values. May I have a motion to reaffirm the mission statement, vision statement, and our core values for the school division?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and second. Any discussion regarding any of those? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We affirm our mission, vision, and core values. The next item is adoption of resolution authorizing the superintendent to settle claims against the school board. I need a motion to approve a resolution granting authority to the division superintendent to authorize settlement of claims against the school board.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We adopt that resolution. The next one is the announcement regarding availability of our policy manual. The MCPS policy manual is available on the MCPS website at www.mcps.org, and printed copies are available to citizens as they need it by contacting the clerk of the board. The next item is, I think we finally finished all the required things. Now the fun is about to start, all right? Next item is our special presentation, Dr. Meyer.
All right, thank you, Ms. Karan. At this time, Mr. Pauly is here for a special presentation to the board. We'll give an update on secondary education.
Thank you, Dr. Meyer. Ms. Karan, members of the board. Not sure how I rate a special presentation tonight, but I do have several things, as you see on the first slide, several things just to inform you of and to go over with you. The first one is something of which I am very proud. We have completed the program of studies. Just so I don't forget, I want to acknowledge a couple of people up front. I could not have done this without Melissa Hipple, who is with me tonight, and Rick Weaver, and Patty Goudreau. The four of us worked very closely together in making this happen. It was a collaborative effort, and the thing that bothers me the most is it's just not perfect yet. In fact, just this evening, I've made a couple of changes to the online version. I've told several of you that we really don't intend on printing this, but I thought I'd print it for you all so that we can just go through it real quick. It really is intended to be an online document. So I'd like to call your attention to just a couple of pages to show you how this works, and then you can take it home and put it wherever you want to put something like this that you can read at your leisure. If you turn to page 8, it's probably my favorite page. Not exactly sure why, except I just like how neat and organized it looks. We have designated certain courses through the use of icons. It really is just for ease of, as you scroll through it, you can quickly identify those courses which are advanced placement, those that are dual enrolled with New River, and so on down the line. If you look to page 39, this is what distinguishes the program of studies from just a simple course catalog. A course catalog just simply provides a listing of all the courses and their course numbers and descriptions. The program of studies actually provides students and guidance counselors, as they work with students and parents, with guiding information for how to select courses. And one of the key ways, which is part of the Virginia profile of a Virginia graduate, is to encourage students to make course selections using the 16 career clusters. And so starting on page 39, you have one page devoted to each career cluster, and the courses that we offer, this is specific to Montgomery County, that middle section, courses that we offer that we recommend students to consider taking that align with each of the clusters. Also, the last line in the table on each of the pages is something unique to Montgomery County Schools. Dr. Goudreau added this line of local employment projections within each career cluster, and I think that's something that's really neat. It shows the kids, as they make their course selections towards their academic and career plans, which kinds of local things they can look forward to in their careers. Starting on page 56 is something that was worked on very extensively by Ms. Hipple. Maybe looks kind of simple, but it required an awful lot of work on her part. And this is an alignment of the courses that New River requires to get an associate's degree in general studies. And on the right, all of the available courses that we have in Montgomery County Schools that New River will accept so that a student could earn both an associate's degree and a regular high school diploma simultaneously. If you look on page 57, there are just a couple of courses. It's just 3 courses that we do not offer within our school system. So the students would have to take that outside the school system and go to New River. However, 3 is a rather low number, and we would like to work toward the goal of someday offering those and having a complete set. Page 59 starts another way students can select courses. It's through the Governor's STEM Academy. We're one of just a low number of those across the Commonwealth. This is something that Mr. Weaver worked very, very hard on to align all of our courses with how you can complete courses and earn a STEM seal. And then the last thing I would just have you look to is starting on page 150, because everything in between those in there are just all the courses listed. But starting on page 150 are all of the sort of courses that don't neatly fit into other categories. So you'll find from 150 to 170 courses that are offered through Virtual Virginia, special ed courses, Project AIM courses, what we call intervention courses, courses that we place students in based on multiple data that we look at in order to place students. So that's the program of studies in a nutshell. The few little changes that have been made over the last 24 hours are really just where courses are offered or misplaced commas and colons, nothing substantive. But as I say, this will be available online maybe as early as tomorrow through each school website. Yes, sir.
And can I interrupt you for 1 second? If you don't realize this, this is the first time we've had a program of studies for the entire school division. What we've had in the past are individual course catalogs for each school.
Right.
So what this has lined up our entire school division where all students can see what's offered at different places. And it's absolutely wonderful. Mr. Pauly and you know, led this and has done an excellent job. And I am just, we've modeled a lot of this after other programs of studies around the state. And I'd say we're real close to almost being one of the best first shot here. So it is very organized for parents and for students to be able to just, because it's, you've talked about this, Jamie, it's hard to figure it all out. Yeah. And now we've got a place to do that. So it's great.
There are companion documents with this, and that is division course selection sheets. So each of the schools will not make their own, and I can provide those to you as well electronically. Those will be online very quickly.
With that being said, because we've discussed the fact that we'd like to see more students take advantage of the college 2-year, being able to complete that, and I know a couple of them have. You know, there's so many parents that don't know you can do that.
Right.
I mean, and that's, you know, you can't do but so much, but there's still so many people that don't know to go and look online to find this. It's 2 pages. Is there any way that we can distribute that to students that are coming in their freshman year? I mean, as a thought process, because
we got a plan.
You know, okay. I mean, you know, I might be getting the horse before the cart. I don't mean to, but I just, you know. Cart before the horse.
Actually, at the academic and career nights that are occurring this week, we are hosting a session for 9th grade and 10th grade parents to come and hear how their student may be able to get the associate's degree. So that advertisement has gone out to that level of parents, rising 9th and rising 10th, and we'll have that information.
And that's a great start too, but there's still lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of parents that can't come to that.
Right.
So, you know, and I think too, even when they go home as freshmen, they've got lots and lots and lots of signatures. And I'm a parent, I'm a working parent. You sign it and send it on. You sign it and send it on. And, you know, that's just being honest. And so a lot of times, but I'm just wondering if there was some great way we could say, hey, or even have copies in the guidance available opposed to, well, you have to go online and find it. That's not so easy either.
Right.
You know,
we did make a separate handout as well.
Okay.
And provide that to each of the school counseling offices.
Okay.
And also, you know, we could also look at doing something like including it with the final report card or something like that at the end of the year, so that
there you go.
So that parents could see that, because it wouldn't cost extra postage, and we could get the information out.
Bingo.
And I also want to mention that the 3 that thank you for putting this together first. The 3 classes that are not offered in Montgomery County, you can all take online. They are all online courses, and all 3 of them.
And we're currently working on getting the health credit. We're trying to dual enroll the new athletic training class that we have coming in, and we believe that that's going to be successful. We've already gotten approval from New River. We just have to wait for the instructors to submit their credentials and be approved. And so we'll have that health credit taken care of. The other classes, the SDV 100, the community college is pretty strict about that only being offered at the college. So we're trying to explore, is there anything else we can do to have that course? But that is really they're very strict about that. They
I was
want it to be
thinking the
taught.
public speaking one too, because that's part of the learning is being able to get up and you have to. Because Abby took that course, and it's at
Yes.
it's at the mall though. And,
Correct.
You know, it's
They're available locally,
Convenient.
and we're trying to work out ways how we can make that happen
Right.
for students. So, I mean, we offer more courses than any division I've ever worked for. So I think for everything that the board has done and the instructional staff here, we have really highly qualified instructors, because you have to have 18 graduate credits in a subject to be able to teach a dual enrolled class. And so we're very lucky and blessed that we do have those highly qualified teachers.
This is amazing. This is
it's
just
great.
amazing.
Could,
Thank you.
could the handout for the, is this too much to ask, the handout for the associate's degree go in the report card being sent home on Tuesday to 9th and 10th graders? Or at least 10th graders. Mr. Knott?
We could ask the schools to do that.
I mean, if it's only
I
2
mean,
pages, if it were, something
You
huge.
said because we have a handout. I mean, this is something new and great. I mean, we are actually for the first time creating an associate's degree program
It's very exciting.
for our students. And we've organized it for them, and we do want to make a big deal. That's why we have special sessions at the curriculum nights. You know, we have the handouts. We've laid it out really nice, but as people are busy, one thing that parents usually look at are the kids' report cards.
Yeah.
And so,
That's a great
and it would
idea.
be great for them
Kids don't
to
know.
see it on Tuesday, since they're beginning the registration process, especially on 10th graders. So,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay. I also want to go over with you the new graduation requirements. I do have to let you know that I'm not able to provide you with a red line revision yet of 6-4.3 because public comment on these graduation requirements does not end until the 10th, which is tomorrow, and then it will be sometime after that it will be made official. But we have every reason to believe that nothing will change substantively. Believe that so much so that it's in the program of studies the way that I'm explaining it to you this evening. If something were to change that we don't anticipate, I'll be the first to let you know. So let me just go over the quick changes with you. On the left, you have the 9th grade class of 2013 through the class of 2017, 18, and then different criteria for those rising 9th graders. So we'll be operating, it's a little tricky when this happens, but it's happened before. We'll be operating under 2 different sets of graduation requirements for 3 years. But let me show you the differences. First, in the current ones that we operate under, students are required to have 6 verified credits, which means they have to pass 6 SOL tests. For the 2018-19, the rising freshmen, that drops down to 5. So you wonder where they dropped one from. They dropped it from what's called the student selected test. Students have always had to do 2 verified credits in English, reading and writing, 1 science, 1 social studies, and 1 math for a total of, and then for the 6th, they had to just pick one of those areas to do an additional test in. So the state has removed that student selected test, so it knocks it down to 5. The other changes that are being proposed are changing from 1 credit in fine arts and 1 credit in CTE, and changing that to or, changing it to 1 fine arts or 1 CTE. Other changes in the program of studies, you'll see too that it's mentioned that students who do not take an AP or honors course will have to earn a CTE credential. That's a new addition. And then the last addition is that students must demonstrate the 5 C's. That has really not been qualified exactly how they're going to demonstrate that. We're waiting for guidance documents, but that has been stated in the new graduation requirements. The changes for the advanced studies diploma are very similar, but a bit more dramatic in the number of verified credits that are required. It was 9 verified credits, and that's dropping back to 5, the same 5 that are required for a standard diploma. So where did they drop those other ones? It used to be that students would be required to have 2 in each of science, social studies, and math, in addition to reading and writing for an advanced studies. That drops down to 1 each, just like the standard diploma. And again, removing the student selected test. Other than those differences, it's the same, changing and to or for fine arts and or CTE, and then adding the addition of, if you don't have an AP or honors course that you've taken, you have to earn a CTE credential, and the demonstration of the 5 C's. Are there any questions about the graduation requirements? There are some other changes. They just don't fall under really graduation requirements. They fall under the types of instructional programs that we offer. The first is in middle school. Middle schools are now going to have to offer a career investigation course. They do give us an option, however. They do give us the option to offer the content of the career investigation course or demonstrate how we can offer that material through all of the curricula in grades 6 through 8. Ms. Hipple and I have begun that process of going through those with middle school principals and guidance counselors, and in the very near future, we hope to make a proposal to you all to show how it is that we can, in fact, infuse that course content across the curricula. Therefore, we won't have to include a new course, which would impact staffing. The other change in the high school instructional program is you're very accustomed to seeing that students have to attain knowledge, skills, and abilities, or knowledge, skills, and competencies. They've added the word experiences to the instructional program, and then later on in the document, they actually qualify that those experiences should be work-based learning experiences. Also, you'll note above that it says highlighted knowledge of regional workforce needs and opportunities, and I believe that's covered nicely by the addition of that one line in the career clusters that Dr. Goudreau did. Another fairly significant change is in the academic and career planning process. The elementary school starting next year gets in on the act by working with students in developing what's called an ACPP. I am by no means an expert in this particular process in elementary school, but it stands for Academic and Career Plan Portfolio. It's just an early stage where students identify areas of interest and clusters of different occupations. It's all designed to better prepare them for the actual completion of an academic and career plan by the end of their middle school years. So they must complete an academic and career plan by the fall semester of their 8th grade year. And all of that is the means to the ends of having this ACP in place in every student's file. And in fact, I will say that this current 9th grade class is the first 9th grade class to come to high school with one of these already in their files. But that becomes the guidance document for all future course selection. Students are to use with their guidance counselors and with their parents and select courses that are aligned with their career interests and their abilities and their academic plans. So it becomes the guiding force, and it makes course selection become very focused and specialized.
So
yes, sir.
What happens if someone decides to change?
Right, it's a fluid document. So if you notice the last bullet, it says that it is reviewed and updated annually. That's one of the first questions I had, like, are we pigeonholing kids too early? And I've been assured that the process does not do that.
Meaning it's age appropriate, or do you know, can you briefly summarize how it doesn't do that?
I'm not prepared to do that because I'm just learning about it myself, unless
right.
Ms. Hipple does. Do you know much about it? She knows more about it than I do. Would you like to hear from her?
Just a brief 1 or 2 sentence answer.
Just very quickly, it's at the elementary level, it's an introduction to careers and what careers are out there, because it's really about expanding their knowledge about careers that are available. At the middle school level, they do choose a career cluster and then start to move toward taking courses in their 9th grade year, but that can be adjusted. So it's adjusted annually because they meet with their school counselors, and when they do their scheduling, they can adjust.
Okay, thank you.
One other change based on the profile of a Virginia graduate is how locally awarded verified credits work. If you're not familiar with those have been around for as long as I can remember. I think they've been around as long as SOL testing has been around. If a student cannot pass an SOL test but has gotten between a 375 and a 399, they can apply through a process that we have here to get a locally awarded verified credit in science or history. But it's been limited to those 2 subjects unless a student has a 504 plan or an IEP, and then they could get one in math and reading and writing as well. But we've always operated under that an LAVC cannot be used for an advanced studies. It was limited only to be used for a standard diploma. This is a rather significant change that the state has made. They have added English and math, so reading and writing and math are now available as LAVC to all students. They do not have to have a 504 plan or an IEP. They can get an LAVC in any one of the 4 areas, But the big change to that is the caveat that you can only have one LAVC. It used to be you could have one in science and history. But now you have to pick. You can only have an LAVC in English or math or science or social studies, unless you have an IEP or a 504, and then you can have more than that. Also notice that the state has now opened up LAVC under those conditions to be applicable to an advanced studies diploma. Any questions about LAVC? Oh, well, there is one other caveat that has been added sort of under locally awarded verified credits, and that is that the state has now opened up to high school students or to high schools that we can allow students to demonstrate mastery of content through locally developed authentic performance assessments in history and social sciences. This has been going on in the middle schools for a couple of years. Mr. Dickinson he's the curriculum administrator for social sciences. He's been working with the high school teachers, and he is prepared to have this in place for World History 1 next year with the upcoming 9th graders. And he's taking a balanced approach. He's doing a quarterly common assessment is what they're looking at, with some traditional testing, but mostly performance and presentation-based type things.
So we're excited about this. SOL is being eliminated. And this came from the Innovation Committee at the state. This was one of the recommendations that were made that was actually approved. And so actually the written SOL will be eliminated for history and social studies and English writing, and we'll have an alternative or authentic performance assessment that will be assigned to the class instead.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, it really is. Yep, we're excited.
Okay, the next topic is to just review with you our plans to move all of the 4 Montgomery County high schools to a hybrid schedule. We currently have 2 Montgomery County high schools who have been on a hybrid schedule since 2014. One other high school, Eastern Montgomery, who has been on a 4x4 schedule, has experimented with some hybrid and does have some hybrid elements in their schedule, and bringing Blacksburg High School online so that we are all on the same type of schedule format. So I would like to just explain what a hybrid schedule is, and then highlight some of the advantages to it. I will say I've gotten some feedback since Mr. Kitts has sent out a letter to the families in Blacksburg. He has shared with me some of the feedback, and one parent did mention that they were concerned about a one-size-fits-all type of schedule, and I couldn't agree with that parent more. And with that, I'd like to say that the hybrid schedule is the only schedule that offers the flexibility that is not a one-size-fits-all schedule. You can have all different kinds of formats within the hybrid schedule. It does start, to get your thinking on it, it does start with a 4x4, standard 4x4 format that you see in front of you. A standard 4x4 block schedule means every course in the school is offered only for the first 90 days, for one semester. So students take 4 courses the first semester, and then when they come back from winter break, they have 4 brand new courses. They meet 90 minutes a day for 90 days. That's a standard block schedule. What the hybrid element of the block schedule is that it looks at each 90-minute block as having the opportunity to be split into 2 45 minutes if necessary, and even some other iterations. And I have some of those demonstrated for you. There you see block 1 is split on the master schedule into 2 45-minute courses. That's one possibility. Another advantage to the hybrid schedule is that within the block schedule itself, it allows the opportunity for students to take a course sequence, something that has a prerequisite, and not wait until the following year to take it. So a student can take Art 1 and not wait until next year to take Art 2. A student can take Art 1 and Art 2 within the same year, or technical drawing and architectural drawing, or any number of things in sequence within the same school year. And then we have some natural course pairings like algebra in parts, geometry in parts. We've been pairing AFDA and Algebra 2 for some students. So there are some courses that have natural pairings, and it gives you the opportunity to do that and complete it all within 1 year as well. Another thing unique to the hybrid schedule is the ability to do what we call shared block. This answers the question or the concern that what about AP courses? If we did AP courses on just this, the standard 90-minute semester block format, there would be students who would take AP courses in the first semester and then have to wait 90 days to take the AP test in May, because the College Board only gives the AP test in May. So to avoid that, what we can do is we do one of two things. We can share block courses, where you see the example there of if you have 20, 25 students who are signed up for AP US, and those same students are signed up for AP English 11, which is extremely common, you can give that 90-minute block year-long to both teachers, and they can share those students during that 90-minute block all year. The teachers can then, within that structure, make decisions that are extremely flexible throughout any given day. They can say, hey, I need them 90 minutes today, and then you can have them 90 minutes tomorrow. Or maybe they do 45, 45 for a while. They might do 60 and 30. They might need 5 more minutes just to finish that last point. It's no big deal. They'll just send the kids over to the next teacher, and that 5 minutes can be given back the following day. So they share the 90-minute block for the full 180 days, with the understanding they'll get the equivalent of 90 minutes for 90 days, or 45 for 180. The other is it works very nicely with our AP sciences that have lab components like AP chemistry, AP physics, AP biology. Shows here that AP chemistry would be able to meet during a block for both semesters and be what we call double blocked throughout the school year. That's a just real brief overview. I think that you've all seen the letter from Mr. Kitts that he sent out to the people in Blacksburg, and I believe you've seen all of the things that have been posted online. We have a posting. This is why change to the hybrid schedule, and there is an exhaustive list of reasons why it is an excellent and most flexible scheduling format, and why we believe it's the one to move forward with for Montgomery County schools, all of our high schools.
Can you explain to the board why it's important for our 4 high schools to have a similar schedule?
Yes, specific to that point as to why it would be important for all 4 of our schools is, I'll take it back to the program of studies. When you look at the program of studies and you see that there are some courses that are unique to certain schools, certain buildings, it could be because of the facilities. For example, cosmetology requires specialized equipment. We don't have that at Eastern Montgomery or Auburn High School, and so those students have to be transported to Blacksburg and Christiansburg High School. Sometimes we have courses that are offered at a certain school or two because they have uniquely qualified staff. A good example is there is a DE biology teacher at Christiansburg High School, and I believe she's the only one qualified to teach dual enrollment biology in the county. So she teaches a block of dual enrollment biology, and the rest of her day is rounded out by teaching regular biology 1. It would be perhaps a better use of that resource to be able to say, well, how about semester 1, you teach a block at Christiansburg High of DE biology, and then you go to Blacksburg High or to Auburn High or to Eastern Montgomery High School and teach a block of dual enrollment biology. Then you say, well, then that's going to leave the other schools short. Well, we'd have to send one of the regular certified biology teachers for a semester to another school. So it does open up the opportunity to more efficiently utilize the resources that we have, both facility and uniquely qualified staff. It also is just an excellent way to assure when kids move within the county and from outside the county. That's been a real difficult time. When I was a principal, when you have a student coming in from a school division that has AB block or pure 4x4 or pure 7-period day, and we're trying to fit them into a 4x4 block or an AB block, that's very, very difficult. It's easier to do that in a hybrid block because we're able to offer the different formats. I'll also say that one of my favorite things about the hybrid block is the ability to offer courses that lend themselves better to certain types of formats. Your classic one would be band, which is much better to be every day for 180 days. So you take like at Christiansburg and Auburn High Schools, they have designated 5th period to be a 45-minute period that's year-long for the entire school. And so band is one of the courses, and choir is one of the courses that fall into that. You can do that for what I would call your skill-based courses that are important to keep up their chops, so to speak, whether that's math or foreign language or music. So those would be some of the highlights of why we believe the hybrid schedule is the best offering. Are there any questions?
Can we save them until the end of the presentation?
Okey doke.
So you can get through that.
Just real quickly, let you know what's going on with middle schools. We are just looking at a few things. Looking into middle schools is new to me. It's been a long, long time since I've thought about middle schools. And so looking forward, this is not something that's going to happen immediately. Certainly they're budget dependent, but we would like to restore physical education for all students in grades 6 through 8. That's something that took a big hit in the economy downturn in 2008. And also it seems that middle schools took an awful big hit. I think they took some of the biggest hit in 2008 and later. And we would like to look at restoring some of those staffing levels at those schools. We're looking at an increase. Ms. Widener, the principal at Blacksburg Middle, told me she's looking at potentially 70 more students next year than she has this year. And so even with an increase in number, she's going to be short on staffing. We've gotten feedback. Dr. Meyer has met with each of the leadership teams of teachers and administrators at each of the schools, and overwhelmingly the consensus at each of the middle schools was that the teachers would like their planning time restored. They have 45 minutes a day every day, but they would like to have their what's called their team planning time restored, which is an important component of the middle school model. But we see the importance of maintaining intervention and enrichment time as well. So the challenge is there a way to change the schedule and tweak it some so that we can accomplish numbers 3 and 4 there? That's something we're currently looking at. We're in the early stages of that. In fact, Friday, I'll have a principals meeting with middle school to look at that more closely. We also certainly want to maintain courses at the middle school for high school credit. And then there's that addition of the career investigation course that we'd like to do across the curricula, as I mentioned earlier. And lastly, budget allowing, we would like to actually increase the exploratory course offerings. Middle school is the place for children to explore their areas of interest and to discover their talents and their abilities and to develop their academic and career plans. And so we want to increase those opportunities so that they are more ready to be focused when they get to the high school and make those course selections.
Speaking of the high school credited courses, this year we added Earth Science as a high school credited course. So the first semester, the kids who were placed in Earth Science, they actually took the 8th grade science first semester, sort of like a block, to be quite honest with you, and then second semester, they'll be taking Earth Science. So those kids actually, for the first time, we actually administered SOL testing in the middle school in December for those students, and we had a 100% pass rate. And so that's, so we're real excited about that. And
that brings up another advantage of hybrid block, because in hybrid block, you're not doing all of your SOL testing at the end of the school year. You're doing some, approximately half in the middle of the school year, a little bit more than half at the end, but it's about 50-50. So that's reducing the amount of time spent in testing, which increases the amount of time of instruction, which you know is one of my favorite things.
I think that's just with hard classes, period. I mean, you've got students that have harder AP or dual enrollment classes, and they've got them all at the same time. It's hard. It's very hard.
AB block testing time.
Yeah.
AB block, the students have all 8 classes all year long.
Right.
And they could potentially only have 4 at a time, but no more than 6 at a time in the hybrid block. And the teachers also, instead of teaching, 4 or 5 or 6 at a time, they're only going to be teaching 3 or 4 at a time. Okay, the last thing, this is a little premature to bring up, perhaps because we have not reconvened the committee, but I think many of you will be familiar with the committee work in 15-16 when we were taking a look at GPA and class rank, and we had a committee that included students and folks from the university, folks from the community college, teachers, guidance counselors, administrators, central office staff. We had we're well-rounded representation, and I just want to review with you some of the findings from 2015-16 to show you why it is that we would like to now revisit this. One of the things about having class rank as we currently have it is that when a student takes unweighted electives, it affects their class rank. I don't know if you realize it's sort of a mathematical strange thing, but once you take even one AP course, from that moment on, every 4-point A actually dilutes your grade point average. At least that's the way the students see it. And I have seen that
Their parents see it
firsthand.
that way, too.
I'm sorry?
Their parents see it that way, too,
Yes,
trust me.
I'm getting to that. Yes, they make what I would say, I feel I can boldly say, they make poor decisions, or decisions based on things that they shouldn't make them on. And that is, they make decisions based on class rank. And this is just a couple of bad decisions that I've personally seen and tried to counsel students away from. But Ms. Froggett's right, it's more like counseling the parents away from. I've seen students drop unweighted A's that they earned at the middle school just because they want to reduce the number of A's. I've seen them take study halls instead of something that greatly interests them, like a fine art or a CTE, only because, like they would drop band or choir or art, only because they don't want to dilute their GPA. This year I experienced a young man wanting to forego a research project opportunity. It was a fabulous research opportunity, but because it would have been an unweighted A, he didn't want to do it. I ended up changing that to a pass-fail format for all students to have that opportunity. But again, it was forcing somebody to make, in their mind, forcing them to make a decision that wasn't good.
Didn't the student, it was an opportunity to work with a professor at Virginia Tech.
Yes, in engineering.
And he was going to actually forgo that opportunity because it would hurt his GPA. And it's just, unbelievable.
And then students take external courses. I don't know if you're aware of this, but I've seen this happen many times where students will, in an attempt to raise their GPA, go take a night class or a weekend class at the community college that they have absolutely no interest in or doesn't do anything according to their academic and career plans just to get another weighted A and try to boost their GPA. And then, of course, we have students who overload themselves with and stress themselves out with AP and DE, not because they're areas of interest, but because they're weighted. So those are some of the findings from the committee that resonate with me. I was on the committee when this was going on as well. Another thing is that we often see when you place emphasis on weighted grades and class rank, you really end up eliminating an awful lot of great students from recognition that they deserve. And it's particularly evident in, as it says, small private schools or large competitive high schools. And as an illustration, here's an example of a graduating class where if you were to recognize just the top 10, you would stop at a 4.3939. If you went on to recognize the top 10%, you would have recognized all the way to somebody who has a 4.2571. But after that, you wouldn't recognize any of these 18 students, all of whom had over a 4.0, but they would not be recognized. The committee was poised and ready to make a decision to recognize students in groups based on how the levels of achievement, like magna cum laude, pseudo cum laude, and cum laude. And the committee just kind of stopped for several different reasons. But we're going to reinitiate the committee and take a look at this again. I'll let you just sort of read through these on your own. I don't want to read them to you, but these were other findings that can be documented by their sources, that more than half of the high schools in our country no longer even report student rankings, that we've talked with, and we can document that many admission officers across the country really, they're suspicious now of class rank and of weighted GPAs because of the game playing that goes on with those things. Also, they have developed rubrics. We get this from the folks who served from the universities. They've developed rubrics that they use to identify students for acceptance that do not take into consideration class rank. And the most significant thing you hear time and time again is, did students take the most rigorous courses offered in the program of studies, and did they get A's or B's in them? And then there's even the most highly selective colleges and universities. When they list the things they look for, absent from that list is class rank. So why are we revisiting this? First of all, it is, I passionately believe that education is not a race or a competition, and the way it is currently structured, we've sort of, like it or not, made it a race and a competition, and I'd like to right that. Also, these other reasons that I've mentioned earlier, it's really, class rank has become somewhat arbitrary because no high schools across the country can say they do it the same way. So colleges are left with looking at school profiles, school programs of studies, and developing rubrics that exclude class rank. And then, of course, I'd be remiss if I said that we should eliminate it 100% because some scholarships and some very competitive colleges do want a calculated class rank and GPA, and we would calculate that and keep that in the background and provide it to those colleges and to those scholarship organizations upon request. So I look forward to getting the committee back together and reconvening and coming up with a proposal to bring before you all before the end of this school year. I'll take any questions.
Yeah. So earlier today I sent Mr. Polly and Dr. Meyer and Dr. Graham a document. Blacksburg High School sits in my district, so of course I've been hearing a lot about this. And also, having been the AP testing coordinator at Blacksburg High School for 3 years, I have, I think, a lot of insight into what some of these parents are thinking, what they're worried about, and I've been hearing a lot of that too. And so I put this together, and a lot of, what I've looked at, I also shared, in particular, a document that came out of Virginia Beach Public Schools where they put together a lot of the research on block scheduling and the impacts, the advantages, the costs. And of course, the one big thing that comes out of it is there is no strong data out there supporting any one schedule over another. And I think it's probably pretty clear why that is, because kids are different and their needs are different, and our schools are different to meet those needs. Mm-hmm. And so I think you've explained why, a hybrid option, that we're looking at that because we do want to meet as many needs as we can. And currently, we aren't. And I think, the work you've done with the program of studies also demonstrates how we can become a division, a division-wide set of high schools that are consistent, as opposed to individual high schools. When they step onto the athletic field, they'll still be Demons and Bruins and Mustangs and Eagles, but academically, I think it's very important, and I think the big reason is every student should have access to every possible course we can offer. That should always be our goal, to do that. So, your talking points and everything have made all that very clear. I really just have sort of two, I wouldn't even necessarily call it concerns, but just things I want to make sure we look at and consider, and things I'm hearing from parents and from teachers. And I'll just go over these quickly. Like I said, I've already shared this document. I'll be glad to share it with anybody else. My number one concern is our implementation timeline. Pretty much all the research indicates that this takes about 2 years to fully implement. And we have 7 months until we start school. So how far are we going to get in that 7 months? So I'd like to see at some point, and a lot of this is stuff I'd like for you to bring back as we go through this process, a good timeline about how we're going to implement this, and in particular, how it pertains to what I think are going to be the two most impacted schools. We're hearing a lot about BHS, but as you mentioned, this is also going to be something new for Eastern Montgomery High School, and I don't think we should be forgetting them either. They are at the other end of the spectrum and being much more of a pure 4x4. They obviously want to be able to make opportunities to their kids to be able to take AP and DE courses that they may not offer there. And we may find there's a lot of need there for it, because being the smaller school, it's more difficult to offer those courses. So, I want to make sure we're looking at both ends of the spectrum here, but also the schools in between. I've heard from students at CHS, it's very hard being a band and college-bound, highly AP student at CHS, because a lot of those courses aren't available as well there. And so I'd like to see, I want to make sure they are considered in this as well. During my time as AP coordinator, of course, I saw the number of AP tests and number of AP students at all of our high schools, and it was continually going down. Now, I know one of the reasons it was going down at CHS was because they were picking up DE courses. Mm-hmm. So that's great, as long as we're sure we have those alternatives available to these students. But if there isn't an AP course available, there's a DE course available in it. So those are a lot of the things that we want to look at. When it comes to timeline, I think it would be good for all of us to understand, everything from student course requests to then master schedule creation, teacher schedule creation, how we create the student schedules from that, how we tweak it, what all is involved with our guidance counselors having to do that. Training and PD for our teachers. One of the things that the research talks about is, and fortunately, we're already doing this, a lot of the block, but some of our teachers may be going back to teaching 45-minute year-long courses. So I want to make sure the resources are there for them to, if it means switching back to what they were doing, particularly at Blacksburg 3 years ago, because we went through this 3 years ago, we went to switch to AB, that they get all the resources they need to support them. And if that means a reallocation or acquisition of resources, that it's there. And of course, information sessions for our parents and students to ease them into this and make them a lot more comfortable, particularly those students who are hitting this sort of halfway or near the end of their high school career. So kids are going to be seniors or juniors next year. They've had a plan now for a while. We need to make sure their plan still fits into this schedule and it's not costing them anything. So timeline for me is very important. Another thing that I've said several times is that we do no harm from this, that we make sure as we're providing opportunities, we aren't eliminating other opportunities. And the example that I put in my document, and you mentioned foreign language. A lot of kids, it's a requirement for the advanced studies diploma, 3 years or 2 and 2. It's typically a requirement for all colleges, either 3 or 4 years as well. If your goal is to knock out your foreign language, you can do that very easily in a semester block. You can take the first one in 8th grade, and then you take 2, 3, and 4, bang, 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 freshman, sophomore year. What about the kid who wants to major in a foreign language? They will be going for 2 years without any foreign language under that type of system. So you had mentioned that, the option of being able to have languages or classes under both a year-long 45 or a semester block. That's going to be very hard to do in foreign language. We already have very few courses in that anyway. And a lot of them are just one section, even at our bigger high schools. And as we know, some of our smaller high schools don't even have some of these foreign languages. So that's, I think, an extreme example of how we need to make sure those career pathways aren't shut down through this process. The next thing is determination of need. And I actually wish you had brought the 4 grade 9, 10, 11, and 12 course request pages, because I know at the bottom of it, you've asked the question, what classes would you like to see offered at your high school? I think that's a key factor in determining what is the need for these courses across schools.
Right.
And, if we're going to impact a lot of students, how many are we benefiting? At what point is it worth it to do this to make sure that we are benefiting, that we have students that want this? I mean, I think they do, but you've got to, it's like Jamie says, you've got to make sure they know it's there. We have to advertise this. They need to understand that they're going to have the ability to take classes from possibly at other schools or from other schools, whether it be remotely, whether it be go there and take it, how we're going to do that. So I think we need to do a really good job of explaining to students how these opportunities will be available to them so they will ask for them, because they need to ask. Big thing that the research talks about is creating stakeholder support. I think, providing enough information and out there, we're not the ones that need to be convinced. It's our parents and our students and our teachers that need to understand the benefits. And I think you've done this very well in the talking points. You've stated it, but now we have to prove it to folks. Allocation of resources, I think, will be a big factor, particularly in our budget situation. Now, you've mentioned we don't necessarily have the ability to add teachers right now, and no promise that we will. If we have kids asking for classes and we don't have a teacher for it, you'd hate to say no. As well as infrastructure too. How are we going to provide these classes? Is it going to be through transportation? Is it going to be through technology and remote classes? Are we going to need extra space? Are we going to need computers? They all have Chromebooks, but they got to have a space to go sit down and use it that's quiet, where they're not disturbing other students. So we've got a lot of infrastructure questions to answer. How do we do an impact versus benefit analysis of this? Again, several of the key things I've read say that you need to have criteria for evaluating the success of it, and you need to demonstrate it, and you need to study it as you go through the process to show that we really are benefiting from it. And then one of the last things that I've read about is, maximizing that benefit. All the data I've read said that the big advantage from 4x4, and I think from this hybrid as well, comes when you're able to add more classes, which means add more teachers. And I think in the end, that's what this really comes down to for truly successful implementation, and then growing this to where we are offering these electives, and now we're talking about possibly doing it in middle school as well. Again, it comes down to resources, and I think everyone needs to understand that resources means money, teachers, infrastructure, all these things. And I think it's really important that we have stakeholder buy-in on this, because hopefully they will be the ones that then go to the funding bodies and make it clear to them why we need more resources and how we are shortchanging our students if we can't fully implement this properly. So there's my thoughts on that.
And those are very well thought out, and I would say that I think we're going to be able to address each of those very thoroughly and to your satisfaction, but don't want to take any more time this evening.
And I said I don't want you to answer any of that tonight. I just want you to be thinking about it.
Absolutely, and most, if not all of those, have already been considered and thought through, so we're certainly going to be able to share that all with you.
And the reaction, a couple of the thoughts there, because they're all great thoughts. I would say that communication is key.
Yes.
And so far, I'll hand it to Mr. Pauly, especially Mr. Kitts. He's done just an absolutely wonderful job at Blacksburg High School, going teacher to teacher. The letter that was written to parents was very thorough. It explained it very well. He, at his curriculum night on the 16th, he'll have a special session just to talk about this specifically to anyone who has any questions. We've communicated through social media. I know I have. I communicated with a lot of students on Twitter a few weeks ago, and in person to students. I personally have, and so that's and it seems like we've answered a lot of questions, and I'm getting a lot of really positive feedback from the Blacksburg community now, and how this could be beneficial to their students as well. The advantage that we have here, as opposed to, because I know a lot of the research is it goes back to Dr. Kennedy from UVA and Dr. Reddick from James Madison University, who I'm real familiar with. They've been around a long time. Communication they talk about, the change they talk about. The advantage we have here as a school division already is we already have schools that are in the schedule, and so we're showing that they work. We're showing that we have a huge numbers in our band and choir programs at Christiansburg High School using this exact same format, and it hasn't hurt their programs at all. In fact, they have really large numbers there, and we've already shown a lot of this, but it's about communicating this. That it's going to work out. And it's going to be a good thing for the entire community. On the we will not have all of the answers by the time we start, because, for instance, on the program the registration sheets that are being given to the students in a few weeks, we're registering for courses pretty soon. One of the last questions on the registration sheet is,
if something's not offered at your school that you would like to see offered at your school, list them here.
Right, so that's sort of a survey question that we're putting on there to see what are kids interested in, and then if we can work it out this year, that's fine. You're talking about resources and how it might cost us more teachers. I'd venture to guess, we don't, because we're so isolated between the four schools, we don't always use our teachers most efficiently. And that's, and Mr. Pauly gave an example of, we have one dual enrolled biology teacher that's at Christiansburg High School. And we have that situation in many cases across the division. One thing, I look at our machining program at Christiansburg High School, that Blacksburg High School students do not have access too, because they're on such a different schedule. The machining kids are getting jobs about April before they graduate, and they're making more than our starting teachers. And our Blacksburg kids do not have access to those programs. And I talked to the teacher there, and he was, very pointed to say, it's a schedule issue, and he would love to have more of the kids there. And the class sizes are not large. We need more kids in the class. The cybersecurity program that we have at Christiansburg High School, the classes are half full. But we have to keep that program. I heard the governor speak at Raffle University a few months ago, and there are like 36,000 jobs in Virginia alone, 36,000 in cybersecurity, starting at $80,000 a year. But
you can wear your hair long, wear jeans, and a holy T-shirt to work, and they welcome
you can,
it.
absolutely.
You often don't go to work. You do it from home in your PJs.
And they bring massage therapists in once a week and bring you lunch in twice a week. I mean, because of
But I guess what I'm saying, I would venture to say we are not using that teacher efficiently, and we need to be able to use the resources we already have.
And that's
in
allocation
different ways.
of resources.
And that's the allocation of resources. And we have a lot of teachers, Mr. Pauly and I were talking today, we have a lot of teachers who are certified in different things that we do not use them in currently, that with flexibility, we could actually do so. And I would say that a lot of these teachers would probably love to do some of these different types of things. So, we're real excited, and I think we'll move forward with caution, continue to communicate, and but we feel it's something that's necessary to further our school division. Next week I'll present the budget, and to give you a glimpse at the preview of that, it's not good. We will most probably unlikely be able to add any staff to our schools next year. Due to the lack of increased funding from the state. And so, we're having to think outside the box. Same with the middle school schedules. And Mr. Pauly alluded to the middle school schedules as, do we need to keep looking at that? How do we get teachers more planning time? The state is now requiring us to give more exploratory options to students in the middle school, but they're not giving us more money to do it. And so that's a pretty common theme for the past decade. And so, but we still have to figure it out. And so, add that, Mr.
We're going to figure it out.
That's right.
Well, and another factor that really kind of goes with your class rank thing and GPA, but ties into this as well is, you talk about the fact that our students are so competitive, they're killing themselves to make these grades. One thing the research says, it says there may not be firm data to support anyone's schedule, but there's a lot of anecdotal evidence that not taking 8 classes at one time reduces a lot of stress.
Absolutely.
And particularly the difference between the traditional 8-period schedule and the block is also the lack of transition. So you don't have kids in the hallways, there's a lot of factors that you can't necessarily measure with data, but that you hear from teachers and administrators that, it's just created a different atmosphere in our school. There's less stress, and I think that, and I absolutely applaud your efforts to consider taking away the class rank as well, because, again, being in the guidance department, seeing that, particularly with the AP kids I was testing, we had kids taking 9 and 10 AP classes at a time. They would take one as a 0 period, take 8 classes, and then go home and do something online afterwards. And it was all to maintain that class rank.
It wasn't for the learning.
No, not necessarily. It was for the GPA. And, you hate to see kids doing that to themselves.
And that's
We've got enough stress as it is.
Sometimes it's not kids doing it to themselves.
And so, that's what I said. Sometimes it's the parents.
We talked a whole lot about social media causing deaths in students and suicide rates and this and that. That's not the only thing. And exactly what you're talking about is causing a whole lot of it, And I remember years ago, and Ms. Franklin may too, when this arose, and I can't tell you how many students from Blacksburg and other schools that weren't on block came forward and said, we want block scheduling or hybrid block scheduling because it would be easier. Kids that you know, are doing great in sports, and that's a huge part of a child's life, whether it's academic or not. It is, and you know, they can take a lighter load when they're not in season of play, or they're not in, you know, a certain chorus group that they're, or an art group, or whatever it may be, that they're truly putting a lot of initiative in, and they can do that. So I'm thrilled. I think it's great. I think we all need to be on the same schedule. I think everybody needs to be working toward the same goal, and you don't have this and that and those and these, and the only way to do it is to start somewhere. And we've got lots of schools that students would love to take certain courses, and they've never been able to because of the funding or because of the reallocations or whatever it may, they can't do it. So this certain issue is no different than any other issue in any other school that we've dealt with. And you have to start somewhere, and you got to move forward. And this is, I'm thrilled. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So Carl,
Yes.
I'll chime in on the schedule thing first. And I thought that was an exciting presentation, by the way. I thought it was special.
Thank you.
There was a lot there, but I'll try to keep it short. I know we have employee groups here tonight. So on this issue with the schedules, and I'll mention, and I don't know if we're doing board reports, but I did go. I went and talked with Brian because I had some concerns, and I talked with Dr. Meyer. I talked with Connie because I knew she had experience, with the being the AP coordinator, and I think there's pretty much universal agreement that doing a hybrid schedule is a positive thing, and it will be when it's implemented better. So I do applaud this change. I think my concern, maybe to piggyback on some of what Ms. Froggett said, is that the devil's always in the details on things like this, right? And we're moving a lot in a short amount of time, and something that I don't know if it's been explicitly stated tonight, but there's new graduation requirements from the state, and so that's one of the things that's driving some of the urgency to get this in place. I guess I would certainly encourage you guys. It may not be perfect in the end. I mean, if we may have to implement this over time. Don't kill yourself, don't kill the staff. I guess trying to implement this. I think beyond communication, which is what Dr. Meyer was talking about. Ms. Froggett kept bringing up the idea of the buy-in, and I think when people are educated on this, I think they will buy in. So hopefully we'll get there. But we've made mistakes in the past of trying to rush something, and it sometimes blows up in our face. I don't think this is as big as some of those things that we've done, but nonetheless, I'm always a little bit wary, especially when it comes to our students, parents, and staff, of pushing too fast or too hard down a certain path. So I was going to also, I guess middle schools we're going to talk about another time. I
Yes.
heard some stuff come up about schedules, but I'm not even going to go
That was
there
just
right
a
now.
teaser.
Okay. So on the course guide, my one comment on that is that, all this information is actually going to be online. And I
Yes.
think it becomes very important how this information is organized online. And this kind of goes back to something that Ms. Bond brought up. So, I think sending something home with the report cards and whatever else we do to communicate that, I think is important to get parents and students looking at the website where all this stuff is. And you pointed us to some very important pages. So, my admonishment there is just that, let's make sure that the website
Directs parents to certain pages.
is easy to navigate,
Okay.
and that at least some of the core information that needs the kind of high level information is easily accessible to them. And and I guess my only other thought is, as we do this, we don't maybe not tonight, but I'm certainly curious on a lot of these topics with the schedule changes and the course changes and things like that, to get some feedback from our student representatives.
They're both at hybrid block schools.
So,
Those two are.
yeah, so it would be good to hear from you guys at some point, your take on some of the change, especially the program of studies and that kind
I
of
think
thing.
that's a wonderful thing, the program of studies. I think that's great to go to that instead of the individual course catalogs that each school's had up to this point. I think that's a really good thing. I like that a lot more than the traditional course catalogs.
Just 'cause
How do most of the students, when it comes time to sign up for classes and things like that, what are the resources that you guys use? Is it a trip to the guidance office? Is it online? How do you guys do that usually?
Well, when we sign up for classes, at least at Auburn, normally there will be a specific day that the guidance counselor will come to a certain class period, and she'll be in there all day, and as students come in and out of that classroom that day, she'll hand out the forms to fill out your classes, talk to you about what your requirements are that you need to sign up for, and then tell you how many other classes you can sign up for as electives, and then you go through the course catalog and you pick your stuff and you fill it out, and she's there if you have any questions, and then you fill it out, and you have to give the paper back to her so she can make copies. Then they give it back to you to go get your parents to sign it, and you're supposed to take your classes selections and discuss them with your parents at home, and then return it back in so that they can start scheduling schedules and stuff. And sometimes I just think that, in my experience at least, the course catalog was a little confusing at times, a little vague in what was available and what you could take, and I think from what I hear about the new program of studies, what Mr. Polly's been talking about, it sounds like it's going to be a lot better, a lot more understandable for students to make their selections and look at what they can really take, whether it be at another school or at their home school, or whatever. It makes it much more accessible information to understand and decipher, I think.
And I don't know if it's changed since my day, but these career pathways were never in there. It was just a list of courses.
Yeah.
This is what you're allowed to take at this grade. And I think sometimes, I don't know if you'll still do it, but if you want to take an AP course, you had to get a signature from this teacher. If you want to take this course, you had to get a signature from this teacher. It was all on paper. The paper was usually shredded by the time it got back to guidance because it had been all over the place and in the backpack. So, this is just so much more streamlined and so much more informative to the student, because they're not having to navigate, if I want to be an engineer, these are the classes I know now what I have to take. That was never there before, at least when I was there. It was not there. So if it was done one-on-one with the guidance counselor, and usually the student had to request it for that time, So I think this will, in many ways, help our guidance counselors too. That the student
we've
will
met with
already
the
come
guidance
in with
counselors and
yeah.
gone through with them in much more detail how to use this to guide, and they were very excited about it.
Yeah.
Josette?
For our school, it's like you do it by grade. A grade has a certain amount of days, and then they call you in ABC order, and you go down to the guidance office. And there's a room where there's a few computers where you get to go on the not MCPS Power School, and you get to pick out your courses, and it lists all the English that you can take, and you get to pick up to at least, I think for English it's 3, just in case the one you want the most doesn't have enough seats and people have already taken it up, and then you get to pick your second one. And it's the same thing for math and then your other stuff like that. And it tells you if you have to take a CTE so that you can sign up for it, or if you have to take an AP or another foreign language class just to get your advanced or your standard diploma. It lets you know which ones you have to take and which ones you can sign up for based on what you've taken. So.
Something I'll share with you all when I get back to my office is there is a course registration timeline that's been around for years. It's just restructured a little bit. It was given out to the principals in October. October is when we actually start the pre-registration work. And it will show some of the things that you've asked about, like how we decide what classes make and don't make, and what travels and what we move teachers for. And that's really just something we've done all along.
Okay. Thank you.
Just to give some numbers, I think 76% of the schools in the state of Virginia is some shape and form hybrid schedule.
Is that right?
So very little, and this is started since 1995, and only I think 6 or so went back to traditional for some odd reasons. I think, either they rushed initially or they have some financial problems, or the superintendent change, or whoever decided change. You know, those are the really odd handful of schools in the out of 300. You know, I think high schools, but 76% still in
Yes.
hybrid schedule. And you really desired outcomes are so great. I think one advantage we have is we're not starting from traditional 7-8 period to make all those changes.
That's the most dramatic
Which is
change,
a very,
yes.
very, we are very, in a very good, spot on that. And I think desired outcomes that are very impressive in terms of improved discipline and reduced stress, both for students and teachers, and improve student achievements of certain groups, because you can arrange certain classes one after another and give those students that need extra math or extra English a bigger opportunity to catch up with those. And also, of course, incredible variation of taking course opportunities, which we'll never have with the traditional ones. So it is really exciting.
And something you mentioned that I failed to mention too is about providing opportunities for students to recover credit.
Yep.
If they're failing a course and they don't have to wait until the school year ends
That's
and
a
look
big
at summer
plus.
school in a traditional 4x4 block, if they're failing it at semester, they can be pulled out or take it second semester. So it helps with that as well.
And it also they can obtain more credits?
Not more than the AB block. It's still 8. It's 8,
Still
but it is more than a traditional 7-period day.
Seven
Yeah.
period.
Yeah.
And without killing the students.
Right, I mean,
Yeah.
the way kids in Blacksburg did it was to give up their lunch in order to get.
Exactly.
That's how
Exactly.
all my 3
That
kids
was the old
That's
way.
grew up
ridiculous, and I
without
said it back
lunch.
then.
Yes.
And I won't recommend.
Which was why they went to the AB block, so
Yeah.
kids wouldn't have to do that anymore.
So thanks again.
Okay.
And I think we should go around and teach how to do this kind of a document for all the divisions in the state.
I don't think
Or
so.
maybe a little VSBA session.
Okay.
Well,
Thank you all.
Thank
oh,
you.
wait a minute.
Oh, that was
It's
my
practicing
question.
that time.
Everybody else is.
I'm sorry.
She has been patient,
So,
waiting.
again, want to say that I appreciate so much the work on the program of studies. I believe that our students are going to be really engaging with each other to talk about the opportunities. So some of that communication, I think they're going to take care of that themselves.
Mhm.
Going to make, get all of our schools on the same schedule is something that should have happened a long time ago.
Amen.
Because some of the things that blocked it was folks weren't really thinking about the students, they were thinking about other things, okay? Can't wait to see how some of our 2 small schools, the students may be able to see how they get opportunities to take courses that they've wanted to take for years. So I'm very excited to see how this rolls out, and I think maybe we stress too much about how it rolls out and we just get it done. So thank you
That's right.
all so much. I appreciate the work.
Thank you. That was
Any
worth
other-
staying for.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Dr. Brown.
Thank you.
At this time and at each of our regularly scheduled meetings, the school board sets aside up to 30 minutes for citizens to address the board about issues pertaining education, public education in Montgomery County. Each speaker is allowed 3 minutes to speak. The screens throughout the room and the laptop will indicate when the speaker has 30 seconds remaining and when 3 minutes has passed. I do not have any individuals sign up, but anybody from the audience would like to address the board at this time. Please come forward and state your name and address, please.
I believe the protocol is name and address.
Yes, please, yes.
Lenny Session, 1550 Grandview Drive, Christiansburg, Virginia. Good evening.
Good evening.
Multiple dialogue on race committees have identified the need for African American teachers as a priority. The common response is we can't find qualified candidates. Tonight I'm happy to report that we found potential candidates among the existing Montgomery County employees. There are 17 African Americans on the current substitute list. Of those 17 listed, 5 are post-retirement age, leaving potentially 12 individuals for targeted consideration. Social events, are designed to help orient and sustain new hires. Unfortunately, there have been minimal results in successfully hiring African American teachers thus far. I'm suggesting that Montgomery County take a look at the 12 African Americans on the individual basis and develop a program of support based on the individual candidate's needs to gain certification. In return, we ask the new hires, if we gain any, to put back into the well, which is something we've done since about 1989, and commit to teaching in Montgomery County, which is what neighboring school divisions do. Now, as a trainer for a regional call center here in Christiansburg, I used to tell my new hire class at the end of their experience, thank you for allowing me to invest in your success. I believe this has even greater potential for this board to say the same to new hire African American teachers. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other individual who would like to address the board at this time? Hearing, seeing none, our public address is closed. Next item will be approving our consent items. If there's nothing pulled from the agenda, we will consider it as approved. Any discussions regarding the consent items? You see few field trips, board members. Hear anything? Consent agenda is approved as it is. The next item is our payment of the bills. May I have a motion to pay our bills?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and second. Any questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We pay our bills. Next one is acknowledging our receipt of the financial summary report. May I have a motion to acknowledge the receipt of our financial summary report?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and second. Any questions or discussion regarding that? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We approved our financial summary report. The next item is part of our business meeting, our board member reports.
Madam Chair, I'd like to move that we forego the reports tonight. It is almost 9 o'clock and we have employees who have been sitting here and have to get up and go to work tomorrow so that they can give their reports and, you know, be able to go to work tomorrow.
I agree.
Yeah, I have no problem.
I agree.
Good idea.
Thank you, Ms. Franklin. The next item are student representative reports. Do you have reports, students? Thank you.
I would just like to say I had a great winter break, but I'm ready to get back to school tomorrow. Tomorrow we have extracurricular night for the upcoming freshmen, which the mentors are hopefully will be attending to get the 8th graders to come up to the school and have a mentor to help them get through their year. Then we have upcoming basketball games. We actually had a game tonight, girls and boys. I have no idea who won because obviously sitting right here. The next game will be next week, the 16th and the 17th. I believe the 16th is against Blacksburg. We're going to lose. And the 17th is against George Withville. I think that's what it said. Other than that, that's all I have for you guys.
Yeah, I just want to say I had a great Christmas break too, and it was great to be able to get away from school for a few weeks, but I'm ready to hopefully go back tomorrow and get back to the books. But other than that, I can't think of anything off the top of my head going on at Auburn in the next few days, and so.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Next item is our employee group presentations. Dr. Meyer.
Yes. First, thanks to our employees for being here tonight and waiting. And I know it is late, but we've invited employee groups to speak to you tonight as we all start planning for the 18-19 budget process. These groups will share their budget priorities with us so that they can be considered in the preliminary budget. Ms. Drake will call each speaker to the podium. Ms. Drake.
Mr. Barnes from Transportation.
Good evening, Dr. Meyer and board members. My name is John Barnes, and I'm the proud driver of Montgomery County bus number 9. I'm also one of our driver trainers, which shows me what a big investment a good school bus driver is for our system. Several of our drivers and aides were able to attend this evening. We would like to thank you for the support you have shown our department over the years. We truly appreciate everything you have done, but we feel that the time has come to address a big issue. For the upcoming budget cycle, we are requesting that all school bus drivers and aides that are on a regular contract be included in the system's group health insurance. We are talking about 108 dedicated employees. We realize that an employee contribution will be necessary for this to be possible. While this addition would be a large budget item, the impact would be fewer than 108 for 2 reasons. Some of our 108 employees are already in your insurance group. I do not have the exact number in front of me of how many are already receiving it. Additionally, some of these employees would decline the benefit when it is offered. We are also in a fairness dilemma right now. It is a messy model to have bus number 23 receiving health insurance and bus number 24, which parks right beside it, not receiving health insurance. I already know the usual response. It's that these employees not in this insurance group do not put in enough hours per week. But there are several ways to look at this complicated issue. We need to consider how MCPS is scheduling these employees' time. The minimum contract, 21.25 hours per week, sounds like it's going to allow for some off-duty hours during the school day. However, there are numerous instances when our employees are expected to perform a duty outside of their normal shift time. Only some of these come with extra pay. The first example I can think of is today and yesterday. Our employees needed to be available to do their shift at 7 a.m. They also needed to be available to do their shift at 9 a.m. Yesterday, I kind of thought I would need to run at 12 o'clock noon. I also needed to be available to run at 2:30 in the afternoon. And then obviously I needed to be willing to stand down on both days. So you're kind of looking at approximately 8 hours on Monday or 8 hours on Tuesday that I had to be ready to ride. And obviously that doesn't leave a whole lot of time to be a very good employee at your second job. And it doesn't consider anything else that you would have planned during your off-duty hours. So in addition to the scheduling, there's other things that come up. Maybe later in the week the headlight is going to go out and I need to go to the bus garage for a new one. It's usually not on the same day when I'm told I have a random drug test after my morning shift. Tomorrow, my bus has a coolant leak. The spare bus I pick up, it needs fuel. I'm going to go pump that on my own time also. And then Friday, I think, okay, things are going really smooth on Friday. I end up having to meet the principal about a discipline issue, but just after a kid throws up all over the clean floor. It's okay. Our employees will clean it up the best they can without complaining. This job has a lot of great things about it too. There's nothing better than seeing a student you've driven since age 4 graduate and go to college. And every bus driver loves when a kid gives you some elementary school artwork. That is why we're working here. This past June, before I began my 16th year, I finally filled out a job application for a regular full-time job somewhere else. My motivation was the health insurance. I couldn't sleep trying to figure out what to do for the rest of the summer. And then by the time they called me for an interview, school was about to start. And I worried, who would drive my kids? I don't have time to train a replacement. And I love this job. So I declined the interview and stuck around. I'm so glad I came back. But back to the hiring and retention. We're having trouble keeping up, especially with the newer employees. We are in need of outgoing, healthy applicants that can pass a drug test. They have to be able to pass a medical exam, a written CDL learners. They have to learn the mechanical operation of the bus. They have to attend a 24-hour classroom training. They need to do another 24 hours behind the wheel of the bus driving, half of it on someone's bus route with them and their 50 students sitting behind them. That part is really tough. Then they have to pass a DMV-approved driving test, including parallel parking and pre-trip inspection. Not to mention, they have to be able to drive a large vehicle on a narrow road with lots and lots of distractions, both inside and outside of the bus. They have to be able to find their way around the county, even in the dark, interact with our students, our parents, our school staff, and they have to be available for a split shift where they're barely free to work a second job. They must be okay with 4.25 hours pay, even though they're on call from 7 in the morning until 5 at night. Our most recent group of new hires did not even show up for the classroom. One did call to cancel. The other 3 just didn't even show. Sometimes our applicants back out during the interview when they realize school bus drivers don't get health insurance. We lost a little ground several years ago. The part-time incentive was moved onto the pay scale. That was really your only option at that time. We appreciate that MCPS placed the veteran employees on the pay scale in a way to make up for that incentive being dissolved. That was when the Affordable Care Act changed the way we were structured. The cost associated with placing those employees on that scale, it will diminish over the years through attrition. But the part-time incentive, it was for employees who work 20 or more hours per week. The health insurance skipped your employees between 21 and 29. And that has primarily affected our department. As our employee group ages and retires, we have 30 to 40-year veterans who are often replaced with good-hearted people, but that often only stick around for 6 months to 1 year. We all want the highly qualified teachers in our system that educate our children to be healthy. We want our maintenance, administrative staff, and school aides to be healthy. We also want the dedicated staff that prepare meals for our children to be healthy. It is time to ask yourself if you want the women and men that drive busloads of your students on dangerous, narrow roads to be healthy as well. Thank you. This job is no joke.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Next up is Connie Blows, representing the instructional aides.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I want to thank you all for the job you've done for us over the last several years. You've helped us to increase our sick days and our personal days. For somebody that had come from a county that got everything that a classroom teacher got, that was a great experience when y'all moved us up and we was able to share. And we're no longer ranked 130th out of 130th in our personal and sick days. I appreciate that. When I was polling the paraeducators over the last couple of weeks before Christmas break, I asked them, what would you like for me to ask for this year? And the number one thing that came into my computer was respect. It seems like that some of them have no respect given to them when they walk into the classroom from not only the teachers, but from some of the students. They're asking that we all be respected as equals, no matter who does the job, no matter what level the person in the building is. Everyone should be respected equally. The second thing I got was compensation. We have quite a few of our paraeducators who have college degrees. They may not be in education, but they are in other fields, especially business, music programs, the arts and stuff like that. That wasn't qualified. When I left Bridgewater College in 1988 with a Bachelor of Arts degree, I took the music program that provided entertainment for industry. My choice was either to move to Richmond or to Washington, D.C. For a little girl that was born in the Mennonite community where horse and buggies were the prominent transportation around you, and tractors, it was a big step for me to try to decide to leave the Shenandoah Valley and move to Washington, D.C. I said, no, I'll take my degree in music, and as a private music teacher, I started teaching students private lessons. Today, I am able to take my music degree and teach not only private students, but I also have been a choir director for a church and piano and organist at different levels in the community. These other jobs, some of the teachers I work with have business degrees. They're able to help the students when they go into the business classes more than I can because I don't know a whole lot about the computer. But they do have the experience that they're able to help these people. But yet, we're not compensated for the degrees that we have. Our skill has changed, but we don't get the compensation showing that we do know something more than an average person. The third thing that came across was important trainings. I took 2 days out of my Christmas break to go and do a mental health first aid training to become certified so I could be help to the guidance counselor staff and to the school nurses and to the other people, like our pastor at church, that I could help them recognize our young people who have depression, who may be suicidal, and stuff like this. It was an eye-opener experience for 2 days to sit in with other educators across the Commonwealth to take this training because I learned a lot. I now know, and I have a book that I will keep with me at all times. I told my husband, I says, I need to buy a larger purse because this book is going with me everywhere. So I can use it for help if I needed to know something, if I see a sign or something, to see exactly who I need to get this child the personal help that they need. We are here to work with our students. We love the job we do. I started in 1976 as a student volunteer in an elementary school that had 127 steps. That was the year that the ideal law changed where all the special ed students were put in public schools. And our school happened to have a class that had 2 through 8-year-olds. We had 3 2-year-olds, and one of them 2-year-olds happened to be a midget on top of it. This little fella could not climb the steps. So me and 2 other volunteers would go throughout the day to take these children to the bathroom, because we had to take them downstairs, take them to music class, which happened to be upstairs, or when they went outside to play, there was no way out unless you went down steps. I carried that little young man on my hips until he was 21 years old, and his mom said, you gotta stop. I love that student, and when they called me to tell me that he had died because his heart was bigger than he was, I cried for 2 days. I love the job I do with my kids, and I think that anybody who's never worked with a special needs child needs to take the time and spend a week with them learning about them. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
Next up is Robbie Jones, representing our custodians.
Good evening. I'm Robbie Jones, Senior Custodian at Christiansburg Middle School. On behalf of the custodians I'm speaking for tonight, I would like to thank you in advance for your past support and your continued support. I'm here tonight to ask you to consider a few things during this budget cycle. I'm going to educate you a little bit. The living wage in Virginia is $12.34 an hour for one adult. Our starting salary for custodians is $10.33 an hour. That's a difference of $2.01. $321.60 a month. It's difficult for one person to support themselves on this salary. Can you imagine supporting a family? Most of our custodians work more than one job. Sadly, this means more time away from their families. I'm asking you to consider to not have any more additional cost or insurance. Last year, we appreciate the salary increase, but for some, it was just on paper. The cost of the insurance, the $25, that was their salary increase for the month. So, like I said, they just saw it on paper. They didn't see it in their pocket. And not only custodians are the only support staff that is affected by this. All support staff is affected by this. I know that the decisions you make are extremely difficult. Like you, custodians still have to make difficult decisions as well as which bills can wait till next month. Our goal is to hire the best of the best. It's difficult to do when our benefits are constantly being taken away little by little. Please keep that in mind when you make your decision for insurance and salary. Also, another thing I would like to ask for is custodians need personal protective equipment during cold weather, such as face protection, boots, gloves, hats, coveralls to protect us when we're out in the weather and elements for hours at a time. Keep in mind that not all of the custodians can afford coveralls or boots or the protective equipment that they need. Montgomery County Public Schools also prides itself on the efficient equipment that we have. And the cost to maintain that equipment and to purchase new equipment is increasing. Also, the chemicals that we use, the daily supplies, toilet paper, paper towels, that's going up as well. And I could go on, but you all know. I will tell you this. Our custodians have more pride than anyone I know. They have pride in their job. They come to work every day with a smile, ready to clean our buildings in support of our students and staff. To look at them, you wouldn't know the struggle they have. But I can assure you, like you, I will and I have lobbied our local and state representatives as well as our governor to fully fund our schools. In closing, I would ask you to remember the custodians' needs and their dedication to Montgomery County Public Schools. And thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next is Melody Cox, representing the administrative assistants.
Good evening. I'm Melody Cox, representing the administrative assistants. First, I'd like to say thank you to Dr. Myers and to the board for everything that you've done for our county, for our schools, for our students, and for us as employees. We really do appreciate how you look out for us. I've talked with several of the administrative assistants about their needs and concerns for the upcoming budget, and this is in order from my responses. All administrative assistants who are also bookkeepers for the school would like to be moved from a CH salary scale to a CI, which covers the bookkeepers. Some of our administrative assistants at elementary schools handle as much money throughout the year as a bookkeeper at a middle school. The second thing would be our clerical aides. Several people have mentioned we would love our clerical aides to have more hours per day and or more days per their contract year to help us, say at the beginning of the year, at the end of the year. This would be very beneficial for our administrative assistants. As Robbie had spoke, I did hear from a couple people who said we don't want increase in our insurance premiums for the upcoming year. We want it to stay where it's at. And then the last item that I received is one in particular, administrative assistant at Montgomery Central, thinks she needs more hours in her day to do her job efficient for Montgomery Central. Those are the items I have. Thank you for your consideration and for everything you do.
Thank you.
Next is Matthew Fentress from the Education Association.
Good evening. Happy New Year. We figured it'd be late in the meeting, so she's providing a little snack. I'm going to read the remarks. They were actually compiled and put together by myself, Betsy, Crystal, Kelly, and Aaron of our exec board or our compensation committee.
Some of my grapes are gone. That's great.
She makes good cookies.
They're homemade. I'm spoiled. Thank you.
She could have mine if you. The Montgomery County Education Association prides itself on building positive working relationships with those vested and providing high-quality experiences for the students we teach. Those experiences are successful because Montgomery County Public School employees high-quality and experienced staff members. As we work through the budget process, the Montgomery County Education Association respectfully requests that you strongly consider funding the following compensation objectives. We have 3 of them. Our top priority continues to be the salary scale. By ensuring that all teachers are placed correctly on the scale based on years of experience, you will not only show support to those who have shown commitment to the county, but also be able to more effectively recruit new teachers to Montgomery County Public Schools. Additionally, the percentage of salary increase needs to include a cost of living adjustment. Based on the increasing cost of living, teachers need a significant raise every year to be able to stay in this profession. We are serving students with greater needs. Those students require greater expertise and experienced educators. Adjusting for cost of living, teachers are taking home less pay today than 10 years ago. Montgomery County Public School has invested in technology, student programs, and many capital projects. It is equally important to now commit to an investment in Montgomery County Public Schools' greatest resource, the people who are teaching our community's children. Next is health insurance. Quality health insurance remains a critical component in employee compensation packages. Over the last 2 years, the single subscriber benefit has shifted from PPO to HMO to the high deductible HSA plan. This action alone has saved the county money in terms of insurance costs, but allowed employees to maintain choices to best fit their families. Any additional increase in employee contributions amounts to a decrease in compensation. It is important to maintain the current level of support for the HSA accounts. Please try to avoid any further increase in employee paid premiums for the HMO option. The previous changes of employee benefits regarding insurance costs have offset increases in premiums while still allowing employees to choose what best fits their families. Any additional increase in employee contributions amounts to a decrease in employee compensation. We ask that you take into consideration extending health insurance coverage to additional employee groups. We need to take care of those who take care of our children. An example, actually we've already heard this, is our bus drivers and bus aides are becoming increasingly difficult to attract and retain because many are not eligible for health insurance benefits. These people are important because members of our educational team. They are people we trust with the safety of our students every day. We need motivated and well-qualified drivers in these important positions. On behalf of members of the Montgomery County Education Association, we would like to thank you for this opportunity and for your past support. As your current dedication to developing our school system as the profession entrusted to teach generations of educated citizens, we ask you to continue to make a significant investment in students and us as staff. And we also included in the back, because I know many of you like data, and it shows too the gap. So if you're looking at that, you can tell that as we continue in our profession, my wife and I are, I guess, mid-career, 16, 17 years of teaching, it's harder to sustain. And then we're both all like, do we find a job somewhere else? But we're working towards that retirement. So as you look at those, you can see that the gap furthers. Any questions or comments?
Matt, are these statistics that you gave us, are these for Montgomery County? Are these averages for the state or what?
They were provided, I think, from the Virginia Education Association. I'm not sure which graph.
The first one.
The first one. From the state.
Okay.
I think they all are.
Yeah, it says it at the bottom, the
Yes.
EA salary study for teachers in the state.
Yes. And then we also, the local composite index, which you can find an index that compares us to localities that can afford what we should be able to afford as well. But we included the LCI that are more local. You'll see Roanoke, Roanoke City, and Radford there.
Okay, yep, saw that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Guyleen Wood-Setzer, representing the principals.
Good evening. I'm Guyleen Wood-Setzer, and I would like to thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this evening on behalf of the MCPA, the Montgomery County Principals Association. Once again, there is a little state and local money to fund Montgomery County Public Schools budget as we would like. However, expectations continue to rise while the resources and personnel continue to be limited. It's just a little too bad that we didn't get some of that jackpot lottery money that was given over the weekend.
I got the tickets. Just couldn't win.
There are three main points we would like you to consider for the 2018-19 budget. First, we support salary increases, which will put staff on the correct steps due to years of experience. Second, we support maintaining health insurance without increasing out-of-pocket cost or reduction in quality. We support increased staffing as appropriate. We appreciate you, the school board, being a student-centered board and your support for our staff and schools. We appreciate the administration and central office recognizing the countless hours that school administrators work. We recognize the tough choices you've made in the past and those that you will have to make. We thank you for the advances that you have been made over the past few years, but please keep salary, staffing, and insurance as a top priority. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Kevin Blevins, representing technology.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board, Dr. Meyer. As Ms. Drake stated, my name is Kevin Blevins, and I'm here to represent the Operational Technology Department. We come tonight to not ask for anything new, but simply to follow through on an approved item from a few years ago that never came to completion, and that's the Evergreen study, which you voted to implement in 2 phases. But due to lack of funds from last year's budget, phase 2 was not successfully available to us. So we would simply ask that you complete the phase 2 implementation to properly align our staff on the scale where they belong, and that you would continue to support us in all we do and all the efforts that we provide for the county. So thank you very much.
Thank you. That was the last of our speakers for this evening.
Okay. And kind of just make a couple of comments. Thank you again for being here tonight, all of you. And many of you did not speak, but we're here in support of your colleagues, and I appreciate that as well. And I would encourage each and every one of you to contact your delegate from the state. First and foremost, the governor a few weeks ago, prior to our break, recommended a 2% raise. And in doing so, there's some details left out of that 2% raise. They're not going to give us the money until 2019 in December. And so the budget we're working on is the 2019 budget, but the December of 19 would not work until the 20 budget. So basically, they're not giving us money from the state for a raise for our employees for next year. And so that sometimes gets hidden in the details when our politicians are speaking. So basically, the state is not at this time giving us a raise for our employees for next year. And so I'd encourage you to contact your delegates. You know, that is the area that we're shortchanging our employees is from the state funding. You know, of course, our Board of Supervisors have done the best that they can to keep up with the lack of state funding. But our delegates are the ones that you should be contacting, you know, and I'd highly encourage you to do that. I have estimates of what additional state funding that we'll be getting that I'll be sharing with the school board next week. And our composite index went up, which means the state funding went down. And so it is minimal increases in state funding, very minimal. And that's a problem. And so I know some of you will be going to Richmond to talk to your delegates, to our delegates. As I know the Education Association, I believe you guys do that every year. We'll be doing it as a school board. We'll be meeting with every one of our elected delegates to speak to them about this, and we'll be lobbying for you. I promise you that. And so, but that's all I have to say right now. But I really, the needs that you asked for are very valid. I promise you that they really are. And we wish we could give every single one of you what you really deserve. And what you've asked for are things I believe that all of you, they're reasonable requests. And I appreciate that. So.
I'll say that this is in some ways kind of one of my favorite meetings of the year because of this time when the employee groups come, because you guys are always, it's a pleasure to be in the company, and you guys do such a good job representing your groups, and the dedication that you guys all have for our students and the school system really comes through. You know, I'll say that I don't take anything that was said here tonight lightly. I still remember things that the employee groups asked for 2 years ago, and so even if it's something that we can't do this year, you know, I know it doesn't look like I'm listening to you guys because I'm always down here typing and taking notes, but you know, I think some of these requests, hopefully we can do something about, and I think some of the ones that we can't do something about right away, I hope that we will be able to in the future. You know, don't be discouraged if we can't do something right away. We are hearing you, and I think for us, for the board, I think this, you know, I think this is a year that we really do make a push on behalf of the operational budget, on behalf of our employees. That's what I'd like to do. You know, every year that I've been on the board or before I joined the board and just paying attention, it's always been about capital needs, and I agree with some of what was said about you know, we've neglected the operational part for a long time, and even if we don't get what we need to start making that point to the public. I'm so encouraged by what happened in Pulaski last year, you know, where you know, basically they put it up for a referendum to the public that basically says, do you want to support your schools? And it was a landslide, and probably not in the way that people expected it. And so, you know, I think we are in a region and in a time when I think people do value education, and you know, I'm not going to stop fighting for you guys, and I hope the rest of my board members won't either.
I'd just like to add on to that. I don't always like to just totally let the Board of Supervisors off the hook either. And I agree we have to contact our delegates, but I think we need to be talking to our local board too. Robbie mentioned the living wage calculation for the state, which was, I think, $12 and change. I actually have the living wage calculation for Montgomery County right here, and it's not a whole lot less. And I know people think, well, that includes Northern Virginia, Richmond, South Side, so I'm sure it's a lot less here. It isn't. For one adult, it's $10.80. And for one adult and a child, it's $22.93. No surprise, children are more expensive than adults. So how is a person supposed to live off of some of these salaries, including our teachers even, with that kind of expense here in our county? And as Dr. Meyer mentioned, the state has indicated we can afford to pay more in this county this year. I think we've been able to afford to pay more for a while. So I think that's another place we need to be talking to as well. You know, the county has done well. I appreciate everything they've done in terms of the capital needs, like Mr. Chewbacca said, but I think it's time to turn our attention back to our employees, our insurance, and things like that in our operational budget. And I think we need to look at more sources than just the state. The state does at least keep up when we add students. You know, that changes our ADM. So when we have more students, we get more money from the state. That's not happening locally. The local money is not based on the number of students we have. It's just based on a flat amount that they give us each year, no matter how many students we have to serve. And our numbers are going up, which is a little rare for this part of the state. And we're trying to serve those students in the same budget, same tax rate we've had now for several years. Keeping in mind,
same number of teachers, less.
Less teachers.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, all
less.
the tax increases we had recently were for capital needs primarily, not for operational.
Right.
It's time we address that.
We have 50 fewer teachers than 2010 and 250 more students. It's a lot.
Along with how many less lunch aides, how many less bus drivers, how many less school custodians we also have with that.
Right.
And so that's what I was going to say. It takes a village to raise a child. And I appreciate especially the bus driver group talking about the things that never get talked about. Going to the principal's office and discussing a situation with a child, with a parent, on your own time. Cleaning up accidents on the bus floor. I didn't think about that. And I guarantee you nobody else thinks about that either. And I appreciate you saying that, because those things, a lot of times certain groups in education, all the things that happen after hours and before school and things like that get talked about. But that doesn't. And I appreciate that, because it needs to be. And people need to know what you do, because we put little guys and little girls in your care every day until you get to school, not even in a building. You're on a moving vehicle, and my son helps clear roads and scrape during bad weather, and they're scared to death on some of these roads, as narrow as they are. And I don't think anybody truly appreciates what a bus driver does. So, no disrespect to any other group, but thank you. And thank you for bringing all that to our attention, because I didn't realize it. So. Sorry. Need to get on my high horse.
Anything else?
Any other questions?
No, I just want you all to be able to go home.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for all being here and
Thank you.
being patient.
Feel free to leave if you'd like. We will not think you're rude, but we do have some other things on the agenda. All right. Next is policy 5-2.6. This is being brought to you tonight for approval. The change will remove the bachelor's degree requirement for substitute teachers. We believe these changes will increase our pool of qualified candidates to serve as substitute teachers.
I have a motion to approve the revisions to policy 5-2.6 as presented.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and second. Any further discussion, questions regarding the policy, board members? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay, thank you.
Policy is approved.
Next is for a first reading, the revised support staff grievance policy mirrors our grievance procedures for teachers. This is the first reading of the change that we brought to you at the January 16th meeting for approval. Ms. Whitaker can answer any questions if you have any regarding this policy.
So I have some concerns with it as far as eliminating the grievance process for folks who've been put on discipline probation. I think all of our employees should have an opportunity to go through a process to be heard. So
is this in line with code? It's
it's in line with the teacher processes. That's why it was changed when they changed those.
The code of, but it's a code of Virginia?
Yeah, the changes that came through for the teachers were based upon state requirements, and so this language here was old, and we wanted to change it to reflect what was in place for the teachers. In terms of the probationary employees, you know, our employees have an 18-month probationary period, during which time, as it is probationary, they can be, you know, released at any time. They are made aware of that. We, of course, go through all of the processes for employee discussions and improvement and things like that, but it is pretty standard that there is not a grievance procedure during a probationary period.
Just because it may be standard does not mean it's right. So I believe every employee should have the opportunity to be heard. So I don't agree with that, with this. And you're saying this is in line with what is in practice for our teachers?
It is in policy for our teachers.
Policy for our teachers, right? So don't agree with that one either, man. I also have some concerns about the hearing officer, and unless I missed it, is this the same hearing officer that we talked about we hire from outside of the district to hear other hearings related to school employee issues?
Yes.
Okay. Well, in the past, when we've had employees come before us for hearings, there was an opportunity for the employee to have input as to who was going to be hearing their case to, and to you know, come up with a selection and then eliminate to get who you need, who you both feel will hear your case. So I have some issues with that. And also that this is only for full-time employees. Again, I believe all of our employees should have the opportunity to be heard and have a grievance process. So unless all that changes, I am not going to be voting for this.
Ms. Whitaker, what's the, do we refer to like a first-year employee as a probationary? It's not somebody who's done something wrong necessarily.
Correct.
Or something like that, right?
So support staff employees are probationary employees for 18 months.
Okay.
Teachers are probationary employees for 3 years. And that's a Code of Virginia for the teachers. Is the mandate school divisions determine probationary period for their support staff, but it's Code of Virginia for teachers that it's a 3-year period for those.
But this also refers to being placed on disciplinary probation. So it's not just employees who we may no longer want to employ.
So the disciplinary probation is what they removed from that language. That's what they've stricken through because they're probationary already, I think is the reason that the attorneys put that into place is those employees are already on probation for 18 months.
No, there's a difference between being on probation to see if you're going to make it through the job and disciplinary probation. There's a difference there.
Not in the discipline that we do in a school division, the discipline that we give when an employee has an infraction, we don't place them on disciplinary probation. That's not something that we put into place.
Right? That's what's been stricken.
Yeah, it's not an action that we take. They're already on probation.
Okay.
I think maybe the confusion is arising.
You're saying after that probationary period?
Yeah, after that probationary period, when you have somebody who's full-time who's not on probation, can they be put on probation, or is that just does not happen? If we get
I would have to check our policy on what those practices are, but I don't know that probation is an action that we take. They're very subscribed under the policies of what those discipline procedures are. I don't know that probation is under there, but I would want to look at that policy to make sure before I told you that answer.
And these policies were recommended by our attorney, these changes.
Yeah. In terms of the hearing officer, I did want to address that for you. So those names would be brought at the next meeting for you to review. When you look at the second reading of this policy, we have the names of those. The names that we had before have been in place for a really long time, and some of those folks are no longer available. So we do need to bring 2 names forward to you. Either way, as the teacher policy does have a grievance process in place for a hearing officer. The school board determines whether or not you want to hear it or whether you want that officer to hear that.
So, do we have a panel of hearing officers when it comes to this process?
You will have, we're bringing forward two hearing officers to the school board next month, or next reading.
I mean, when it actually occurs.
When it occurs.
When something actually occurs.
Right.
It would be 2 to choose from.
From that both parties would be able to choose from.
No, the school board would select. The employee, of course, can choose who they would like to represent them. You're choosing who you will have represent you.
Any other questions? Okay. All right, next, the Huckleberry Trail easement request. The town of Christiansburg is requesting, and this is something we've talked about on a few occasions. It's requesting an easement around the property at Christiansburg High School for the extension of the Huckleberry Trail. Because this request is a more extensive easement request, we'll bring it back to you again, possibly next week for approval. We had our attorneys review the original document that was given to us by the town of Christiansburg, and our attorneys have made several changes to that document to protect us. And so now it's back in the hands of Christiansburg, and so the word is that, you know, we believe they are agreeing to the changes that our attorneys have made in this easement. So, but I believe Christiansburg Town Council has a meeting tonight, and so you know, based on those results and what their attorneys say, we will possibly bring it back to you next week. We'll see. It needs to be, when I bring it back to you for approval, it will be stamped by our attorney saying this is good, period. And so, and good for us.
In terms of the path of the easement, there's no change. It is what you presented, how it's going to go.
Yeah, it's how the actual easement's written to make sure it protects us. Yeah. And there's some other things that our attorney caught that were not included. You know, Dan can answer specifics if you'd like. If not, okay. All right, thanks. Okay.
Thank you. That will wrap up our business side of the meeting. The next one is unfinished business. Are there any matters of unfinished business, board members?
I do have one. Last year, particularly the last part of last year, we were approached several times by the group Virginia Organizing, requesting that we make some form of statement, resolution. You know, it was not totally clear, but that we do something with regard to our discrimination policies, and to that effect, we attempted to develop a statement that was not in the end agreed upon by the board. So in November, when we met, as chair and vice chair, Ms. Karan and I met with several members of the group, and to hear, you know, their ideas about how they would like us to proceed. We pointed out to them, of course, that we had added a statement to our core values, which is something that is on all of our documents in all of our schools, referring to cultural diversity and that, we felt like that was a very important move, but they felt like we needed to do more. And one of the things they presented to us was essentially what was a resolution from the Harrisonburg City Public Schools. And we asked them to forward that to us, which they did. And a lot of this occurred because we've been gone now for a month or so. Ms. Drake looked up the meeting where it was done to determine what they were doing. And Dr. Graham has provided me copies of that, and I'll be glad to share with you. So then Dr. Graham took that, and her staff developed a very similar, and I just hold them up and show them to you. This is what Harrisonburg developed. This is what Dr. Graham and her staff has developed as a draft for us to consider to perhaps address their concerns and their wishes, and just to reaffirm our non-discrimination policies. So I would like to place this item on our agenda for the next meeting to begin discussion and consideration of perhaps drafting a similar resolution. And I can obviously share this with you as well, what Dr. Graham and staff have already developed for you to look at and for us to consider. But I would just like to put that forward to the board for consideration to put on our next agenda. Get your feelings on that.
I think it's worth discussing.
Yeah.
Never felt good about the way it all went down last year, so,
I think one question I will have for you all to think about it before the next meeting. We have it written on that piece of paper. Now what's going to happen to that piece of paper?
Yes.
It's going to go home with the picture. It's going to be on the website. It's going to go everybody in the backpack. It's going to go once a year. What is the final outcome after the letter is prepared or the resolution is prepared? And I don't know what the Harrisonburg did with theirs.
Right.
So that will be the part probably we would like to find out. So those will be the two questions I will have. But it is pretty much merging our, policies, our, code of ethics, and basically putting all together and, giving the policy numbers too. So it's pretty much putting together a document that covers multiple things.
And of course, a lot of these things we reaffirmed tonight as part of our reorganization meeting. So that might be something we could consider in the future is reaffirming this entire collection of policies at our reorganizational meeting. But that's obviously something we could discuss as well. So.
Sounds good.
So if the board is willing, I would like to place that back on the agenda.
Yes. I think that would be good to look at it one more time. Any other unfinished business, board members?
Do we have to agree to that, or is there?
Majority consensus?
I think it's
There's
just a
majority.
thumbs up.
Okay.
If it is thumbs up, I think that will do. Majority nodded their heads, I think.
All right.
Thank you, board.
Next one is our new business. Any new business matters that you would like to bring? Hearing none, we'll look at our announcements and information. Anything you would like to share in terms of announcements, happenings? I know.
It's on January 20th at
Just
10 o'clock. Come early, 9:30, and get registered and get some coffee. The Dialogue on Race will have its winter summit, so everyone is invited to attend.
And it's at Christiansburg Middle School.
Christiansburg Middle School.
January 20th
January
at
20th.
9
20th.
a.m.
At 10. Starts at 10.
Registration starts at 9.
Registration starts at 9:30, and usually there's a long line. So
Yes, I say,
come
it's
early.
very long in the
Yes.
summer summits.
Yeah, come early.
Come early.
Serving lunch, right?
Yes, we
They
are.
do,
Serving
yeah,
lunch.
yeah.
Mockingbird Cafe
Yeah.
will be providing
They
lunch.
do great
Good lunch.
Great lunch.
I would just like to thank Dr. Wayne Harris for providing a wonderful board orientation. I know Ms. Parton really appreciated it as a new board member, but I also appreciated it as a 2-year board member. Learned things that I didn't learn from my VSBA orientation and haven't learned since then. And I thought he did a thorough job, and I really appreciate that you brought him in, Dr. Meyer, to provide that for those of us who took advantage of it.
Very good.
And for Ms.
Yeah,
Parker.
that
He
was
did a
very
great
good.
I would
job.
second that, yeah.
Any other announcements that, or information you would like to share? And moving along,
The NAACP, I believe this Sunday, is going to have the annual Martin Luther
Martin
King
Luther, yes.
program.
3
at
o'clock,
Asbury.
I believe, Asbury Church.
Asbury United Church
Yeah.
on Stewart Street.
That is true. And you'll see upcoming school board meetings. We have January 16 and possible January 29 joint meeting. We haven't talked to Board of Supervisors with that is happening or not, all right, yet?
I
In
thought it
terms
was
of,
canceled.
is it on our calendar? But
We got a, I don't know if it was a glitch in Google, but we got a cancellation notice from Google, from your Google Calendar, that it was canceled.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
I
I was
wondered
wondering
if
that
it was.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I did not cancel. I don't know what happened.
Google does that sometimes.
Oh, sorry about that. Well,
So,
no,
yeah, I was wondering
as far as
too.
I know, it's happening,
still
but we
on,
have
okay.
not talked to them, because we haven't had any liaison meeting yet to talk about
No,
the
the
agenda
agenda.
for that, but it is happening. I apologize if, I don't know what I did.
Yeah, can
I
you
have to be
make sure
careful.
it gets put back on?
Sure. Ms.
It's
Drake?
already there.
Yeah,
It's already there?
you-
Okay.
That meeting was at 7 a.m. You wanted it off your calendar.
Okay.
Yes.
That's good. So obviously, I was doing really, really not a good job. If I'm putting a meeting at 7 a.m., that's questionable, all right? Next is entering the closed session, I believe. Our next order of business is closed session. Do I have a motion to go into closed session to discuss 3 personnel matters as authorized by Section 2.2-3711 of Code of Virginia?
So moved.
Second.
I have motion and second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? We are in closed session.